The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look at my soul. I've been afraid I would follow alone. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Welcome into a Wednesday edition of Running Points on YSNLive.com, presented as always by Greenwood Chevrolet. We're going to do this, both of us do this at the same time. Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Youngstown, as we are both holding up our Yeti cups, not to be confused with
The abominable
Abominable Snowman or Yoda or anything of that nature. Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. A great place to buy a car. It's kind of a combination of that and who was Kermit's
That sounded
sidekick?
That sounded like Fonzie Bear.
Thank you. Yeah, Fozzie Bear meets Yoda.
Fozzie, but they were both Frank Oz, right? Didn't
Pretty
Frank Oz
sure.
Do,
God, he was insanely
Fozzie Bear?
talented.
So
Yeah, he was insanely talented. Oh, that's all I know.
who wants to hear a joke? Waka waka.
330-886-0813. Never gets old. 330-886-0813. The MPV Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline open for business. Brian Driscoll will be calling in at 12:20. Notre Dame is taking on Alabama. Is it the march to death, or is Notre Dame actually going to play on Friday against Alabama? We'll find out, I guess. Honestly, I haven't heard a lot of people say, same old Notre Dame, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, really?
You don't belong in the playoffs.
You've been listening to.
I mean, the first couple of days after the committee made their decision, I was, okay, everyone's been talking about this.
The consensus I've heard from the national scope is they deserve to be in because their body of work this season has put them to be deserving to be in, but they're not going to be on Alabama's level. So and people are saying that, like, even if they go and get crushed by Alabama, it doesn't change the fact that this season they deserve to be one of the top four teams because they were one of the top four teams. But I don't think a lot of people expect them to do a whole lot.
Well, the number is pretty substantially high. They're 20-point underdogs. I mean, this is a huge undertaking for
Half
Notre
of that
Dame.
is their history. Not even have to do with what's on the field this year. I mean, half of that is what everyone expects Notre Dame to do in big games.
Yeah, and I think that is something that
whether that's fair or not.
Well, it is fair.
I mean,
based on everything that they've done with Brian Kelly as the head coach.
I get Brian Kelly is the constant in all those variables, but there's a lot of other unconstants.
Sure.
You know, in 2015, none of the players on the roster now are even on the team.
The only constant in all of this has been Brian Kelly,
and the losses go before Brian Kelly.
Absolutely, they do.
1998, I think.
Yeah, absolutely they do. But in recent years, when they've been on the brightest of spotlights, they have crapped on themselves.
Did you see his press conference? I can't remember exactly what he said, but he pretty much lowered the bar substantially, and his expectations were like, we got here, and he was like when I heard that, I was like, wow, he's really just taking the approach of letting his kids not freak out that it's Alabama and not put the pressure of winning.
Well, there shouldn't be any pressure on Notre Dame because they have no shot at winning this game. None. It's just okay. Just line up, play the game, and if you can play within a touchdown or so,
they have a shot if Ian Book decides to throw downfield.
Well, absolutely. But like I said, they have no shot because Ian Book doesn't have any stones to do that. Now, if he finally suddenly finds the stones to throw the ball down the field, okay, now we might have some fun.
Or if Kyle Trask says peace out to Florida since all their wide receivers ditched him to prepare for the NFL.
Well, that's true too.
And then he goes and puts on a Notre Dame. Ian, give me your jersey real quick.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We're good. We're
Okay.
good. We have the same
good.
body frame. We'll be fine.
Yeah, we're good. Nobody's going to know the difference.
I'll
We're
put a
good.
visor on. No one will see.
Yeah, nobody's going to know the difference. We're good. The other game that I'm looking forward to seeing, and I can't believe I'm saying this, and I will not actively root for Ohio State, but I hope Ohio State beats the living hell out of Clemson. I just do.
Did.
Well, I mean, but I'm not going to actively root for them. I'll just sit back and smile if Ohio State wins because, I don't like either program.
You'll be that guy in the corner petting his cat with the evil smirk.
Yeah,
on
pretty
his
much.
face.
Pretty much. I'll be Marlon Brando in The Godfather, just petting the cat, just looking and going.
I knew this would happen.
I knew this would happen. Look, and the more I think about it, not that I have any money right now, I'm a little bit light thanks to a Tampa Bay going into the playoffs, but neither here nor there.
I see right in front of me. There's another one on the table.
Yeah, there is.
I missed some breaking news.
There is, and we'll get to that in a little while. You've been a busy camper the last 2 days.
I go away for 2 days, and you make another bet.
Well, listen, I mean, you didn't just go away. You were doing some high profile basketball games.
We
Kudos to you, my friend.
We had a fun time at South Range the last 2 days. It was a war of attrition doing 8 games in the span of 24 hours, but
there's nothing wrong with that.
But we love what we do, and it was really good basketball. Even the blowouts had really fun. Hoban's always fun to watch. So Lenny Riley and
they're Division One.
They're Division One.
Okay.
There were 3 Division One teams at that tournament:
Nordonia,
Boardman, and Hoban.
Okay.
And they all played each other.
Yeah, and Nordonia played South Range, and again, South Range, they were only down 2 at the end of the third quarter.
Yeah, and it was tied up at 35 late, and just a little bit of lapse focus on the Raiders' part let Nordonia on a 7-0 run, and that was pretty much the end of that because, Raiders just didn't have enough time to come back from that kind of deficit, down 42-35 late.
That is... Man, it's going to be a lot of fun to do D3 basketball. Boys, girls, doesn't matter. And especially now that we're 100% sure that the tournaments are going to smash together and form one supersized tournament. And oh, my God, depending on what tournament we're talking about, what other district tournament we're talking about, you could be seeing the best of the best of the best in northeastern Ohio converging in this one gigantic tournament.
The Northeast District is still slow to let their brackets out. I think other districts have let out their brackets already, but Northeast is notoriously slow at releasing what their district is going to look like.
They love the drama.
I know.
Yeah, I think they've watched one too many Bachelor and Bachelorette shows. The biggest decision in the world is coming up after this timeout. No, it's not really a big decision. All it is some doofus giving somebody a rose. I mean, that's the drama queen. Enough with this stuff. I mean, good Lord. Every single week it was the same thing with the guy that does the show. The biggest decision of the season. Really? Come on.
You sound more like the promo guy than Chris Hansen.
Yeah. In a world where women and men don't know what the hell they're doing.
But yeah, it was good basketball, and I think next Monday, the next game for South Range is Poland, and that is going to be
that's going to be fun.
Knockdown, drag out, fight for the NE8 because Poland hasn't lost a single game in the NE8 since it started. And
Western Reserve tried to make that a thing of the past, and they were only down 4 at halftime. Just give them their first loss, period. And
they lost to Salem.
Yeah.
So would have been Poland's second loss, but either way. But I get what you're saying. Poland was on a big winning streak, and both of those teams were coming in hot. And Poland's pressure on the guards was the difference. I mean, they trapped the guards like crazy, and Western Reserve just doesn't see that too often. So they just the switching of the defenses. I mean, Vuletic still got 17 points, I think. So it was one of those games where if the guards would have been able to contribute a little bit more, West Reserve would have had a chance. And then Jackie Grisdale dropping 30.
Well, dropping all kinds of stuff.
Like it was nothing. I mean,
I've been impressed watching all the games that I've watched this year. When people are doing the 2-3, they're now doing a 2-3 zone trap. So when the point guard crosses the volleyball line. Boom. The two kids up top are trapping that person.
And you have to. I mean, if you just sit back in a normal 2-3 zone,
you're going to get destroyed.
You know, and if you're doing it against the good teams in this area,
yeah,
they're going to penetrate and kick. And if you don't collapse, they're going to drive right to the hoop.
Yeah. And it takes a lot of running because, again, if you trap this person and they throw the ball to the left, or the kid on the right is going to have to sprint over there to make sure that person doesn't get an open shot.
We had Marlington on Monday, and they run it's a 2-3 clinic on how to run a 2-3 zone because they use the sidelines, they push you to the sidelines, and they trap you like crazy, and they rotate so well. And I mean, if you want to see a really good 2-3 zone in high school, especially girls basketball, you watch Marlington, and they run a really good one. And it stifled Ursuline's offense. And really, Ursuline's game plan was just hold the ball for as long as possible and make that zone extend and look for opportunities to kind of sneak in behind it. And that game was really slow because of it.
Years and years ago, the zone defense was to make sure that the inside game was taken away, where you'd back the two guys to the foul line extended and you'd pack in the 2-3 zone defense. Well, with the advent of the three-point shot, now you can't do that. Now you get some sort of semblance of Boeheim's 2-3 zone defense where everything is up, and yet the back three are still able to take care of the post.
And at its core, it's still trying to deny passes into the post.
Yeah.
But now it's taking more chances, and you have to trap the outsides, and it's really fun to watch teams that do it right. Teams that don't do it right.
Oh, you get paid.
You get paid. The zone can hide defensive
it hides speed.
Yeah, it can be like, hey, we're not the best at defending. We can just go into a 2-3 zone. But the ones that are going into a 2-3 zone because they're really good at 2-3 zones, that's fun to watch.
No, it is. It's an awful lot of fun to watch. And then you have to, as an offensive player, you have to yield to the temptation of, we're giving you this area over here. No, they're giving you this area because they're filtering you down here so they can put a trap on the end line where you're SOL.
What you got to do, you got to hit shots. You got to hit shots and you have to drive. I mean, there's
take the ball to the basket.
Two ways to beat a zone. You either hit perimeter shots to extend it, or you drive inside and make it collapse.
Yes. And while they collapse, get the ball to the big.
And speaking of, when we did Western Reserve Salem, all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, Reserve put on a 2-2-1 trap press. And they didn't do it the whole game. And Salem just, it kind of
rattled them.
It made a little bit of a mind.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why Salem didn't score a lot in the fourth quarter. They had 5 fourth quarter points and 0 in overtime.
Yeah. I loved, and I've seen this a couple of times in high school and a few times in college, when you want a turnover and you play a zone defense, you play a 1-3-1, and it gets everyone just out of their mind rattled, where they're looking at this going, all right, how are we defending this? Because 1-3-1, you try to do a skip pass, don't. Just don't. You're done at that point. So it works for everyone that loves doing those skip passes where you go right wing over to left wing, and you do a 1-3-1. That's where you can get 2-3 consecutive turnovers, and then you hope and pray your offense is able to get on a run. So.
Yeah, and then I like when the 2-3 kind of morphs into more of a 2-1-2 where the middle comes up a little bit, traps the high post.
Exactly.
That's always fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables what you can use with a zone defense. Of course, you don't do that until high school. You tell your kids, play man-to-man in junior high.
Except when I coached middle school, 8th grade, the varsity coach at the time loved putting the 2-3 zone in. So we wanted to get the middle schoolers ready. So we had a lot of 2-3 zone in middle school.
There you go.
So
all right.
Whatever your varsity team's doing, you better start adapting to that in 8th grade.
No doubt.
The next year they're ready for it.
No doubt. I always like doing man-to-man because if you don't know how to play man-to-man by the time you get into high school, you got problems. But there's a lot of great theories. We're going to continue our basketball conversation. Didn't McDonald play a game before last night? I thought I could have sworn they did.
They did.
Yeah. All right. So McDonald's 2-0 now on the campaign.
They
blew out Salem last night.
That didn't look like their second game of the year.
No. No.
Wow. Did they go off or what?
Yeah, that could be a whole lot of fun Looking at McDonald,
I mean,
that's ridiculous.
Miles Culp had 33 points, and they had someone else with 19.
Yeah, Portales.
Yeah.
Portales threw down 19, and Ragazine had 10. So unlike the last few years,
and Salem's
now you've got a little bit of balance.
Salem's defense had been playing really well.
Oh, yeah.
So to do that to a team that's been playing really good defense at their gym.
Not too shabby. Not too shabby. We're going to take a timeout. On the other end, we will hear from Brian Driscoll. Does Notre Dame have any shot against Alabama? I mean, I'm talking up Alabama like they're the second coming, and truth be told, they might only be the second best team in college football behind Clemson, even though I can't stand saying that. But who knows? Maybe Notre Dame gets the job done. We'll talk with Brian and see what he has seen through all of the films that he has watched and whatnot. And is there kryptonite potential kryptonite in Alabama?
Well, there is. It's just it's not what Notre Dame's good at.
Well,
their kryptonite is what Kyle Trask did.
Yeah,
chuck the ball downfield.
Extend
their zone.
Well,
it's not something
it's hopefully Ian Book knows how to do that. He does against other teams, just not against elite teams. We'll talk about that with Brian Driscoll. That's coming up at 1 o'clock. The YSU women are going to be in action. Finally, some basketball to be played at Bigley.
Finally, all caps.
Yeah, no kidding. Doubleheader on Friday, doubleheader on Saturday with the YSU men and women. We'll catch up with Dre Smith coming up at 1 o'clock. Brian Driscoll coming up next. Stick around. It's a Wednesday edition of Running Point presented by Greenwood Chevrolet, Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. Back in a bit.
21 News.
Let's get right to our top story tonight.
More experienced reporters.
A new Wilmington restaurant.
GM Lordstown.
Telling more local stories.
We'll look at efforts
boy is recovering from a broken
around our valley.
Community in Niles. We are here in Youngstown, right up.
Because you expect.
It's important for everyone. No place like home.
More local news.
In Mercer County Court.
21 News is our valley's #1 local news.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring, and, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
Attention football fans, order Coca's Pizza tailgate package for only $54.99. You'll receive 24 slices of our delicious cheese pizza, 20 jumbo wings, and 2 of our famous foot-long pepperoni rolls. Coca's Pizza, we serve it hot.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions.
WRS Insurance Solutions is a local independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsurancesolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
Your Armstrong services are more important than ever. There are more and more connected devices in the home these days. To get the most out of your experience, you need a network that is always getting better. You deserve superior performance, and that's what Armstrong offers every day. Whether you're working from home, enjoying your favorite content together, or simply catching up while apart, count on Armstrong to keep you connected to what matters most.
To Greenwood Chevrolet because I was really interested in looking at the tracks.
Because I wanted my dream truck.
Because I've been going there for 20 years. I think whenever we go there, whatever car we're looking for, they have tremendous inventory.
If you're looking for people who care about you, Greenwood is the place to go.
You know, it's like family there. The girls know me in service. It's Miss Kim in the Tahoe.
I'm really happy that I went
to Greenwood Chevrolet.
Because they really went
the extra mile for me.
Now we're going the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
For heating, cooling, and indoor air quality, the Mahoning Valley trusts MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning, offering worry-free repair, service, and installation. Call MP Vivo today for a free estimate.
MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. We're your energy-efficient experts.
Welcome back to a Wednesday edition of Running Point on ysnlive.com, presented by Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. Ron Potesta with you alongside Anthony Hardwig, fresh off doing 8 basketball games over the last 2 days. Tired Anthony, that's what he is. Let's go to the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline, where we find our Notre Dame guru. You can read his work, irishbreakdown.com. He is Brian Driscoll, and he joins us on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. Brian, how was your Christmas?
It was very good. Relaxing, spent time with my wife, had some good food. Very nice Christmas.
There you go. All right, so we go from Christmas to celebrating New Year, and what better way to celebrate 2021 than to play the Alabama Crimson Tide in a national semifinal game?
Yeah, it's kind of like, if you think 2020 was bad, wait till we get to 2021. That's how we're going to kick things off. So 2021 is going to start off on either a really bad note for Notre Dame or about as good of a way as you can start a year, that's for sure.
Okay, Anthony and I have been talking about this, and obviously this whole thing is twofold for me. Number one, I was hoping to hear more people nationally say Notre Dame doesn't belong, typical Notre Dame, they crap on themselves when the spotlight's the brightest. Truth be told, I haven't heard enough of that to really feel confident that everyone is pissed off and tired of hearing about that. But number two, and Anthony and I brought this up, and I want to see if you'll agree, Alabama could be beat. A kryptonite for Alabama is a quarterback that throws the ball down the field and exposes that zone defense, which can be exposed. Unfortunately, Ian Book, as we have so painfully said in the last few years, against big game opponents, doesn't throw the ball down the field nearly as much. Is there any chance that this light bulb finally gets turned on and Ian Book just lets it all hang out?
Certainly there's a chance. And look, this is a very, very good Alabama team. It's the best team in the country, but it's not as good as, in my opinion, the 2018 Clemson team or even the 2018 Alabama team, because this is a year. It's been a down year for a lot of different people. Clemson's not as good as they've been in recent years. Ohio State's not as good as they've been in recent years. Georgia's not as good. LSU's not as good. It was one of those years where it's kind of like the perfect storm for Alabama. So, this is not some unsurmountable challenge for Notre Dame. And if Notre Dame had a better track record in these games, I'd be a lot more confident that they can stay in and win this game, to be completely honest with you. So, this is a team that Georgia had down at halftime. This is a team that Ole Miss was within a touchdown of in the fourth quarter. So if that can happen, then certainly Notre Dame can play with it. And I think Ian Book is the key. He has to play loose. He has to play aggressive. He has to play like he's not afraid to make mistakes. Because if he does that, Ron, the truth of what I see when I break down the film will become a reality to everyone else, and that is at the other 10 spots on offense, Notre Dame can absolutely hang with and in some areas beat Alabama. They have better matchups in other areas. I think Notre Dame has more matchup advantages on offense than Alabama does with their defense. But whether or not the trigger man can make that happen and make the throws needed for Notre Dame to show that advantage remains to be seen. Look, Clemson didn't have different secondary players in this game, in the championship game, that they had in the first game. The reason that the Notre Dame skill players beat Clemson so badly the first time is because the quarterback made the throws. And finally, at halftime of the Texas-Colorado game last night, Jesse Palmer showed some clips that showed Notre Dame players were, in fact, getting open in that game, but the quarterback didn't make the throw. So I no longer feel like I'm a lone wolf kind of, crying in the wilderness about this isn't about the receivers. This isn't about the tight end. This is about the quarterback and the offensive coordinator.
I'm interested because you did bring up that there are several teams on Alabama's schedule that gave them a hard time and really pushed them, especially Florida in the SEC championship game. What film do you think Notre Dame is watching the most on those teams to kind of compare to what they can do with their style of offense?
I don't think there's a team necessarily that's like Notre Dame, but I think the Georgia game would be closest because it is a team that's built on running the football and didn't have a quarterback that necessarily was a drop back and throw it all around the field. I mean, you're not going to learn a lot In my opinion, if you're Notre Dame, watching them play Florida, because how they defended Florida is completely different, because Florida doesn't run the football. Alabama started that game in their nickel. I'd be surprised if Alabama started the Notre Dame game in their nickel because of who Notre Dame is. I mean, Notre Dame is a team that has a tendency to start off with 2-3 tight ends on the field. They want to run the football and those kind of things. So I think how they defended Georgia will be somewhat similar. But honestly, when you break down film, you don't just watch one game. What you do is you take a string of games that you feel are relevant. You break down the numbers. You break down the film. You try to find tendencies. Like, hey, on 3rd and short, they have a tendency to run this look. Or on 1st and 10, after their offense scores, they tend to do this. And those are the tendencies that you look for that allow you to build your game plan. But beyond that, it's simply about what are things we know we can do formationally, with motions, with shifts, with personnel, to try to get matchup advantages against Alabama. And that's ultimately what you do. And then how you execute that game plan is the key, as opposed to, looking at, well, this is what Georgia did that worked. It's more about, hey, this is how they defended Georgia. Here's the look we think we're going to see. What can we do with our personnel to take advantage of those matchups to have some early success?
Brian Driscoll from IrishBreakdown.com breaking down, pun intended, the Notre Dame-Alabama game. First and foremost, for Notre Dame to succeed offensively, the offensive line has to play an extremely, extremely good game. What is this team health-wise like going into the Alabama game, Brian?
Well, I think health-wise on the offensive line, it's the healthiest they've been since we saw Jarrett Patterson and Tommy Kramer get injured. I think Tommy Kramer is now healthier than he was against Clemson. He's had a little bit extra time to heal. Josh Lugg is probably going to start at center. This will be his 3rd start at the position. So they're healthier. Alabama's actually in a tougher spot offensive line-wise than Notre Dame is, because they lost their starting center in the 4th quarter of the Florida game in the SEC title game. So this is game 1 for them, trying to replace their starting center. So we'll see if they're able to do a better job of it right away than Notre Dame did. I think health-wise, offensively, I think they're in a good place. I think it's just about, Braden Lindsey's back to as healthy as he's been all year, although I'm not really holding out hope that he's going to do anything until he actually does it, But otherwise, I think this is a healthy team offensively. It's just about what kind of game plan are they going to put together. Will they be aggressive, and will they execute that game plan with physicality and precision?
Well, to me, the game is going to be won and lost, as always, at the line of scrimmage, and a fascinating matchup on both sides of the ball. Notre Dame's offensive line against Alabama's defensive line. Alabama's very talented offensive line without their center, Chris Owens, going up against Notre Dame's very talented defensive line. I think if Notre Dame has any chance at upsetting Alabama, they're going to have to perform exceptionally well at the line of scrimmage.
Oh, no question. No question. And I think, that's one thing that Brian Kelly says a lot. You have to win at the line of scrimmage, and I do think that's still true. I think even in this era of explosive offenses and scoring, it's you still look at these teams that win, and they play really, really well along the line of scrimmage. Even Clemson, the 2 teams that won titles, those weren't elite offensive lines, but they played very well as a unit. They complemented, and they had great defensive lines, and I think that's the key. And I think that's why I view this Notre Dame team as having a shot in this game, because I do think Notre Dame matches up well against Alabama in the trenches. That doesn't mean they're going to play well. We still have to see that. But from a talent and what they've done throughout the course of the year, in 2012, Notre Dame matched up pretty well along the defensive line. But it was a complete mismatch when you looked at the Notre Dame offensive line against the Alabama defensive line. In this game, however, I think Notre Dame can go toe-to-toe with Alabama in the trenches on both sides of the ball, Ron, and that's going to be a very, very important part of this outcome.
And you talked about in the trenches and how important that's going to be. About an hour ago, you put up a piece about how important stopping Alabama's run game is going to be in this game. Just put into words what slowing down the Alabama run game would do to that offense and how much that would help Notre Dame's defense.
And one of the keys to stopping the run game is how do you stop the run game, right? And what that means is you can't stop the run game by putting 8 guys in the box, 8, 9 guys in the box. You can stop the run game easily if you want to do that, but you're going to give up 550 yards and about 6 touchdown passes to Mac Jones. It's about doing it the way that Notre Dame has done it all year. And I think then that means controlling the line of scrimmage, and that means your linebackers playing well and allowing Kyle Hamilton to attack the run game from distance as opposed to having to put him in the box all the time. And what that does for Notre Dame is, you look at what Clemson did to Notre Dame in the ACC title game, and that is, they were able to stop the run game with the front four and the two inside linebackers, which allowed them to then mix up their coverages. So, they could stop the run with their box, which meant they could, only rush four, and when they read pass, the linebackers could get depth and work underneath the in cuts, and that the safeties were able to stay deep, and the corners could defend on the outside. They could mix up their coverages and cause confusion for Ian Book, and I think that's going to be the key to this game. Is if Alabama is going to struggle offensively, it's you want them dropping back and throwing the ball the whole game, because there's more things that can go bad on a pass play than there are on the run play. And the key is you can't allow Alabama to be balanced. If they can be balanced and run their play action passes, and you have to insert an eighth guy into the box every time the ball snaps, and Alabama's going to score a ton of points, and Notre Dame's not going to be close. But, I think there's an opportunity to create some mistakes from Mac Jones if you're able to stop the run and then use if you're stopping the run, that means you're winning the battle up front, which means you're then going to be getting some pressure on the quarterback. And if you're able to do that, that's how you can force them into mistakes. And what does a mistake for Mac Jones mean? Of course there's turnovers, but more so it's about missing that 2nd and 10 throw, or missing that 3rd and 5 throw because he was rushed, or he thought he was going to get one coverage, and it's not. Thinking on 3rd and 5, Notre Dame shows pressure, and he thinks, I'm going to hit this slant route real quick behind the pressure, and so he drops back thinking he's going to hit that slant route. Next thing you know, one of the linebackers is smoking, and he's jumping underneath the slant. Now he's got to throw it away because he's not going to scramble and run. That's not who he is. He's not going to. He's not Trevor Lawrence. He's not that kind of athlete. He's not that kind of player. It's like minus yards on the season rushing. So if you can do those kind of things with your coverages, mix up those coverages, you can create enough stop opportunities to allow your offense to stay in this game. And that's what we saw from Georgia. I think first 7 possessions for Alabama against Georgia, they had 4 punts, an interception, a field goal, and a touchdown. If Notre Dame can replicate that with their own defense, they've got a shot in this game because Notre Dame has a better offense than Georgia has.
Brian, tell everyone the matchup of the Alabama wide receivers and guys coming out of the backfield against the Notre Dame DBs. I mean, Notre Dame's DBs have a lot of size, and I would imagine that they can hold up pretty well, assuming that Notre Dame gets a little pass rush on Mac Jones. I think the DBs can hold up really well in their matchup against Alabama's wide receivers.
Well, they can hold up if you're getting pressure. That's the key. I don't think this is a group of corners and safeties other than Kyle Hamilton that you necessarily want defending vertical routes all game. And if Alabama's got time to drop back and throw the ball downfield, which we saw in the ACC title game, you're going to get beat, and you're going to get beat consistently. This is not the same secondary that Notre Dame has had in past years. This is not a Troy Pride, Julian Love secondary. It's just not. But what it is because you talk about that size, that toughness, they can be effective against the quick game. I think, and that's the thing is they can force Mac Jones to throw the ball downfield more, and that's where the pass rush has to take over. If they can take away the quick and intermediate throws, which I think this secondary is capable of doing, and force him to throw the ball downfield, then the pressure now becomes on the defensive line to say, hey, we've taken away the chain-moving plays, the reasons why he's completing 77% of his passes. Now it's up to you to make sure that he doesn't have time or the comfort ability to now attack us downfield with clean pockets. That's going to be the key to the game. So in the first area, I think the secondary stacks up well. It becomes about having to cover down the field on vertical routes. I think you're going to see a lot of what we saw against Clemson in both matchups, which is Clemson hit a lot of shots down the field. And in the second game, the pass rush never really got there, and Trevor Lawrence just shredded the Notre Dame defense, and that obviously cannot happen in this game.
On the flip side, Patrick Surtain, and obviously he's been unbelievable as a DB for Alabama. Notre Dame is going to have to know exactly where this guy is at all time, and I'm just curious if he is going to try to lock down McKinley or one of these wideouts and force Notre Dame to go the other side of the field.
I don't think you should avoid him. I'm not saying your game plan is let's throw the ball at Patrick Surtain 15 times, but I think you have to attack him. And look, Florida did, and Trayvon Grimes beat him for a long touchdown. Patrick Surtain is a talented corner, the best corner in the country. 6'2", 200 pounds, cover guy, instinctive, but he's not Deion Sanders, and Javon McKinley has shown against Caleb Farley last year, against Asante Samuel this year, that he can go out there and beat good corners. It's just about giving him the opportunity, and he has to be a part of his game plan. Look, I I did some data breaking this game down, and one of the things I came up with, Notre Dame, Javon McKinley caught at least 5 passes in 6 games. In those 6 games, Notre Dame averaged 39 points per game. In the 5 games where he caught less than 5 passes, they averaged about 26 points per game. If you take the South Florida game out, because they're terrible and not a Power 5 team, against 4 Power 5 teams, they averaged 21.8 points per game with Javon McKinley caught less than 5 passes. He has to be a part of this game plan. He's a good enough player to be able to go at Patrick Surtain and make a couple downfield catches. Look, Javon McKinley has 4 games this year with 100 yards receiving. The only 2 Notre Dame receivers to do that in the last decade, and think about the name, Chase Claypool, Miles Boykin, Equanimous St. Brown, T.J. Jones, all those good players, there's only been 2 that have done that in the season, and it's Will Fuller and Michael Floyd. That's pretty good company to be in. And so he's proven himself. Now it's about the quarterback having the faith to say, hey, I'm going to give you these chances with well-placed back shoulder throws. It's up to you to go make the plays. And I think he can make enough to where, you keep Alabama honest. And I actually think it sends a message. If you attack Patrick Surtain early, it tells Alabama and it tells your own players, we're not afraid of you. We're not afraid of any of you. We're going to come after you because we think we're better than you. And I do think that he is a player capable of giving Patrick Surtain some problems. And then now if Alabama has to force themselves to have him be on Javon McKinley the whole game, now that allows them to use some other matchups that to their favor with their tight ends and their other receivers, especially Avery Davis, who's the guy that I'm looking for as having potentially some big plays in this game. So I would attack him early and force him to say, hey, we have to put him on Javon McKinley the whole game. Otherwise, we're going to be in trouble.
Out of all the position groups we've talked about, which one do you think in the last 2 weeks have the coaches been challenging the most and looking at like this position group is the biggest key to a Notre Dame victory?
I think it's the defensive line and the offensive line. I think on each side of the ball it's the lines, and we've talked about this. But look, I don't care how well the linebackers and DBs play. They're not going to stop Alabama if the defensive line doesn't play great. On the other side of the ball, I don't care how well Ian Book plays or how prepared the receivers are to make big plays. If the offensive line doesn't play like one of the best offensive lines in the country, it won't matter. They're not going to win this game. And I think the same is true on the other side of the ball. I think the same is true for Alabama. I think a lot of the things that I said that are concerning for the Notre Dame defense are also concerning for the Alabama defense. And that is if they don't stop Notre Dame's run game, if they don't get pressure on Ian Book, Notre Dame's got the talent at the skill positions to hurt them, assuming the game plan is good. And so I think it's a very key for both teams to say, hey, you got to play well up front. Clemson did not play well up front in the first matchup, and Notre Dame won. Clemson played a lot better up front on both sides of the ball in the second matchup, and they won. And I think the same thing is true in this game.
We've talked about how important it is for Notre Dame to stop Najee Harris, or at least contain him to the point where the play action is not going to be as effective. I would imagine it's the same thing for Alabama with Kyren Williams. If Kyren Williams goes off, Notre Dame has a really good chance at upsetting Alabama.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's the key, that Notre Dame has to, because, and the other thing, too, is it's even more important for Notre Dame because Alabama has shown they can score a lot of points and win without running the ball effectively. I mean, they've done that for half the year. They didn't really start running the ball effectively until after Jalen Waddle got hurt. Notre Dame has to run the ball to be effective. If Notre Dame doesn't run the ball, they have no chance, in my opinion, in this game. Now, running the ball doesn't mean you run for 200 yards. I mean, we saw in the Pitt game that Notre Dame didn't run for a lot of yards that game, but they kept running. They kept at it. They kept attacking Pitt with the run game, and Pitt had to continue resources to the run game, which meant Notre Dame then had opportunities to hit them downfield because Pitt overcommitted to the box to stop the run. That left them exposed to big plays down the field. And so if Notre Dame's going to – if Alabama's going to stop the run game, that's fine. If Alabama wants to stop Notre Dame's run game, they can, flat out. Any good team can do that to another team. But you have to force them to stop it with 8, 9 guys in the box, right? Because if they do that, now you've got the matchups to attack them down the field with the pass game. And that's what we saw against Pitt. And that's what you see, what we've seen in other games in situations like this. So they have to establish a run game early, force Bama to load the box to be able to stop the run, and then when you do that, you have to hit some home runs with your pass game. And that could also mean pass game to the backs. I think the tight ends and backs are going to be important in this game, the pass game, because where Alabama is most vulnerable in the pass game is at the linebacker and safety level. And Notre Dame has grabbed those two positions with Michael Mayer, Tommy Trumbull, Kyron Williams, and Chris Tyree, that if you don't utilize those guys in the pass game, then you've done a poor job as a football coach. And I think that Notre Dame is going to be smart enough to know that in that game and take advantage of those personnel. And, Anthony, earlier you talked about what you see on film. Well, what I see on film isn't necessarily this team or that team. It's consistently tight ends and running backs have given them a lot of problems in the pass game. And that's something that Notre Dame needs to and can take advantage of.
I feel a whole lot better about Notre Dame's chances against Alabama hearing this, and it makes sense because the tight ends and the running backs, if Notre Dame uses them, and they've been using them all year, Notre Dame should be able to play with Alabama, and yet there's this gnawing feeling, maybe because, well, Notre Dame hasn't shown up on the brightest of spotlights, that might happen as well. What do you tell an Ian Book who hasn't been able to or just isn't willing to throw the ball down the field for fear of making mistakes? What do you tell Ian Book? Because, I mean, this is it. This is his last year at Notre Dame. I mean, he ain't coming back. I mean, he's going to go to the NFL if someone takes a chance on him. I would hope that he is in the mindset now of, hey, screw this. I'm going to take so many chances going downfield and just let it all hang out and let the chips fall where they may. I hope he thinks that way, but how do you get to him to think that way?
I don't think he needs to think necessarily that way, to be honest with you, Ron. I don't think he needs to think, and what I'm referring to specifically is I'm just going to take a bunch of chances downfield. All I want from Ian Book is read the defense and get the ball where it needs to go on time. I mean, that's really it. I mean, whether it's a 10-yard curl route or a crossing route or a hitch or a post or a go route, whatever it is, read the defense and give your playmakers a chance to go make plays. This isn't on you always. This isn't the Ian Book show where you have to make a million plays for us to be successful. You say that to him as a coach. It's execute the offense. And when the opportunities are there to take shots, take them. But it's not about forcing the ball downfield. It's about if you see that, your anticipation has to be really good. And his anticipation is what's really struggled in past games. And then he waits till guys get open. It's about trust the system, trust your teammates. If you know Javon McKinley's running a corner route and you know it's one-on-one coverage, when he hits that top step and he makes that plant, throw the ball out there and let him go make a play on it. That's not you taking a million chances. That's you just executing the offense. And I think if he just executes the offense and has that confidence that, hey, I know this window's tight. I know that he's not quite where he needs to be yet, but I'm going to put the ball out there like every other great quarterback and give him a chance to go make that. If he does that and isn't afraid to make a mistake, I think he'll have a big game. And then that will lead to him being more willing and comfortable taking those downfield shots that could be the difference in this game. And now all of a sudden, if you're able to hit those vertical throws, if you're able to hit the in cut, because here's the thing, Ron, if Notre Dame hits a bunch of 12 to 15-yard completions all Alabama, it's going to soften up the run game because now those linebackers that on defense against those concepts is your linebackers getting underneath those routes. Well, if they're thinking about having to get up underneath those routes, then they're not thinking about, we got to stop Kyron Williams. We got to stop Kyron Williams. We got to stop Kyron Williams. So it's about being effective with the pass game that doesn't always have to be a 25-yard, deep shot or a 50-yard deep shot that gets that team thinking that, hey, we got to worry about this. It can also be that, and that's what Alabama does. Alabama doesn't just throw the ball vertically all game. They are so good at the short to intermediate pass game. They are phenomenal at it. But then you have to overplay that with the run game, and that's when they beat you over the top. So it's almost kind of like stealing a page from Alabama's book, which is be efficient, run the ball, and then when the defense reacts to that, that's when you take your shots and you beat them for home runs.
Now, I know you don't have a prediction yet, so I'm not going to ask you for a final score or who's going to win, but I am interested in what you think the score range would have to be for Notre Dame to have their best chance to win.
This is not going to be a 24-17 game. This isn't going to be a 27-24 game, I don't believe. This is going to be a game where, at the very least, you're going to have to get into the 30s. I mean, look, Alabama has not scored below 35 points since the 2018 title game against Clemson. And with all due respect to the Notre Dame defense, they're not the 2018 Clemson defense. So this is a game where your offense is going to have to score. And look, even if the Notre Dame defense comes out and plays great in the first half and does what Georgia did, and that's forced a bunch of punts and a turnover, in the second half, Alabama is an extremely well-coached football team. And for all the talk, I feel like is, well, Alabama's great because they recruit really well. Yeah, okay, yeah, they do recruit really well, but so does Florida State, so does Tennessee, so does USC, and they suck. They're good because not only do they recruit at a high level, they are tremendously well coached. They're going to make halftime adjustments. So, this is a game where you're going to have to play for 60 minutes, and you're going to have to coach well and play well, and that's going to mean scoring a lot on offense. And defensively, it doesn't mean shutting Alabama down. It means making enough stops, whether it be holding them to field goals, whether it means forcing punts or turning the ball over. You have to make 4 or 5 stops in this game. And if you can make 4 or 5 stops in this game, especially early, that's going to give your offense a chance to score enough to win this game. Notre Dame needs to be within striking distance of the fourth quarter. If they're within striking distance in the fourth quarter, I'll feel like this is a chance for Notre Dame to win this game. But striking distance isn't going to be 13-6. It's going to be something more like 31-24, 31-27. It's going to be something more like that. And then Notre Dame's offense has to win the day, and Notre Dame's defense just needs to make a stop or two.
It feels like 2 things. Number one, Notre Dame is going to have to score every single time they hold Alabama to either a field goal or forcing them to punt. Notre Dame's next possession, they have to get points. That's number one.
Question.
And number 2, I think Notre Dame is going to have a substantial lead or a lead at halftime, because Alabama is so damn good at adjusting and the adjustments. And that's what makes Saban the best coach in college football, with all due respect to the arrogant jackass in Clemson. It's this guy's the best because year in and year out, he has made such great adjustments in the second half. I can count on one hand the amount of time Alabama's crapped on themselves in the second half. He's that good. I think Notre Dame must have a lead, and preferably a substantial lead, a.k.a. 7 or more points at halftime for them to have any hope at winning this game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with the second part. I do not agree with your comments on Dabo Swinney. I think Dabo Swinney is every bit as good as Nick Saban, and that's why he is beat Nick Saban for championships twice during this last stretch. But, I think you're right, though. I think that's the thing that people often miss when you look at Ohio State, when you look at Alabama, when you look at Clemson, and then you compare them to like a Georgia. The difference is coaching. Georgia recruits just as well as those teams, but they don't win at those teams because they're not coached as well. And I think that leads to this notion that, you can't just out-talent Alabama. You have to out-coach them. You have to out-execute them. And when this offense can strike the way that they can, you have to have a big lead. I mean, you have to have a big lead. That's one thing. And then the other thing that you mentioned, Ron, is you have to match them score for score. And even more importantly, you have to match them stop for score. And that's the big thing, is because Alabama's not going to go away. And then the other thing for Notre Dame is you cannot get into the second half. If Notre Dame has like a 10 to 17-point lead, even if Notre Dame for some reason has like a 20-point lead in the second half, you have to understand Alabama can make that up in 3 possessions. You have to keep scoring. You can't say, hey, it's grind the clock time. It's melt the clock time. I don't care, unless you got a 2-score lead with 2 minutes left. There's no milking the clock in this game. It's about you get the ball with the intention of scoring, and you do it your way, and that's fine. And sometimes that's going to mean long drives to take some time off, but it's not about running the clock out. It is answering score for score. And that's the only way you win, because to your point, Ron, if Notre Dame has a lead and Alabama comes out, let's say Notre Dame's up 10 and Alabama comes out and they get the ball in the third quarter, they're going to go down the field and score. Well, what do you do in response? You got to go back down and score. And it's got to be, if they score a touchdown, you get a touchdown. If they kick a field goal, you score a touchdown. That's how it's got to be in this game.
Well, and now this is going to just lead right into the person that is going to have to be probably at his best and then some, and that would be one Brian Kelly. I mean, Brian Kelly's going to have to coach the game of his life, and his coaching staff, they are going to have to coach the game of their lives for Notre Dame to knock off Alabama on New Year's Day.
Yeah, I think, you made the point earlier about what you say to Tommy Rees, what you'd say to Ian Book. To me, if I'm Brian Kelly, that's the message I give Tommy Rees. Hey, Tommy, nobody thinks you have a shot to win. Nobody thinks you should have this job. You know, that Driscoll guy is always hammering us about how bad our offense is. We're 20-point underdogs. What do we have to lose? Let's go have some fun. You know, let's come up with some concepts. There's this pass play you've been trying to get me to let you run all year. Let's run it. Let's do it. You know, that's the message is, hey, guys, let's go play loose. And that's something that Dabo did back in 2015, and that's where you know, he is, to me, a master psychologist in that, you know, he created this notion that Clemson is a great team, but yet they always feel disrespected because they don't think, no one thinks they have a shot. Well, everybody thinks Clemson has a shot all the time, but he's created this notion of we have no shot, and that's why his team plays with an edge. Notre Dame doesn't find themselves as 20-point underdogs very often. And I think Brian Kelly needs to use that to his advantage. Hey, guys, they all think we stink. They got this crazy narrative about how we don't step up in these games. We got nothing to lose. No one thinks we can win. Let's go have some fun. And I think that has to start at the coaching level more than the player level. Because when you do that with the player level, you can tend to lead to recklessness, I think. You know, at the player level, it's about let's go do our thing. And then the coaching game plan needs to be where some of that let it loose mentality comes out. It's got to come out from the coaching standpoint first, and then the execution follows that coaching, and that's where you can have a chance to go out there and play your best game, and that's what they're going to need, Ron. I mean, we know this, right? They're going to have to play the best game of the season. They're going to have to play one of the best games they've had under Brian Kelly, and if they can do that, then the team will have a chance. They can look like the 2017 team that played USC, then they got a shot, you know?
We've talked about the offenses and defenses of both these teams until we're blue in the face. But if it's close, it might come down to special teams. So in your opinion, which one of these teams has a better special teams unit?
Well, you know, with Jalen Waddle out, I'd have to give that edge to Notre Dame. You know, I think that Alabama's it's kind of funny. As great as Alabama's been all these years, they've never been able to find a kicker. You know, and their place kicking is never been great. This year, you know, their kicker's been pretty good. You know, he's been 12 of 12 on field goals, and he's made all of his extra points, and he's been solid. But he hasn't been put in a lot of high-pressure situations. You know, John Doerr has been. And so he's struggled lately, and he needs to get out of his funk. But, you know, I think Notre Dame, to me, has the special teams advantage because I think their coverage units are so good. I mean, they just have outstanding coverage units. And so they have a chance to force Alabama to go on longer drives more consistently, which is going to be an important part of this game. So, you know, as long as Jonathan Doerr's kind of got his head on straight, I would give the special teams advantage to Notre Dame. Now, Alabama has been more creative on special teams, and we've seen Notre Dame be vulnerable to that, you know, onside kicks and things like that, and that's where I'd be concerned. As far as every snap operation of special teams, I think Notre Dame has the advantage. As far as pushing the right buttons at the right moment to create a big play, I think that advantage goes to Alabama. And they've shown that they're willing to use that in big games. If you guys remember the 2015 title game, you know, Nick Saban has shown that he'll use his special teams to give the team a spark if he needs to.
Clark Lee will obviously leave Notre Dame as soon as the season is over. He's taken the job at Vanderbilt. There's a lot of folks that are wondering, okay, is his mind going to be on this national semifinal game? And if Notre Dame does the unthinkable, is his mind going to be on the national championship game? To which I say resoundingly, hell yes, his mind is going to be on this. And I think the defense will show up and do their job.
How can your mind not be on going and winning an NFL?
Exactly. How can you not be? I mean, look, Clark Lee is going to go into the Southeastern Conference. This is just an opportunity for him to say, hey, you know, not only am I going to stick it to you on Friday, when I get to Vanderbilt and I recruit some classes, I'm going to stick it to you then, too.
Well, not just that, but if you're Clark Lee, I mean, you have everything that you want to do at Vanderbilt. A lot of that's going to be predicated on how you finish at Notre Dame. I mean, if you're the new Vanderbilt coach and you're going in there with a national championship ring, what is that going to do for you for recruiting? And look, Notre Dame can look at this. Look, one of the things that helped Charlie Weiss recruit so well at Notre Dame was he walked into those national championship rings. Let's not forget that Charlie Weiss went through an entire playoff and a Super Bowl having already taken the head coaching job at Notre Dame. And he was still able to focus on going and winning that title, number one, because he's a professional, just like Clark Lee is, and number two, you understand that if we go win this thing, this is going to be great for me when I come to recruiting. So it's in Clark Lea's best interest to put his best foot forward at at Notre Dame to help him with his start at Vanderbilt. I mean, not only recruiting, but if you go out and win a championship or you beat Alabama, and even if you lose the title game but in a close game, you're going to have coaches saying, hey, I want to coach with that guy. I want to work with that guy. I want to be a part of that staff. You're going to have recruits that are going to say, hey, I want to go play for that guy. Because he's going to be in the SEC now. And look what he did with those three-star Notre Dame's starting defense has composite three-star recruits on it. Notre Dame's best player on defense, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, was a three-star recruit that Notre Dame beat Virginia and Michigan State for, okay? There's a reputation that Clark Lee can develop players. Now, if you can develop players to the level that you're competing for and winning a championship, that's going to help you tremendously at Vanderbilt. So even if his mind was on Vanderbilt, Clark Lee understands that the best thing for me at Vanderbilt is to do a great job at Notre Dame and finish this thing strong. So if the defense doesn't play well on Saturday or Friday, it won't be because Clark Lee was thinking about the Vanderbilt job. It's going to be because Alabama, executed better, and the Notre Dame offense put the Notre Dame defense in some bad spots.
Agreed wholeheartedly, and my only thought now is hopefully this is not an extension of 2020, and 2021 starts with a unbelievably great win over Alabama, or an unbelievable game in which Notre Dame doesn't get blown out.
Yeah, it'd be nice. I mean, and honestly, I think that to me is success for Notre Dame. I'm not going to sit here. If Notre Dame plays Alabama hard for 4 quarters and loses, you're not going to hear me banging Brian Kelly talking about how he can't win the big one. What you're going to hear me say is Notre Dame took a big step forward this year. They beat Clemson once. They went toe-to-toe with Alabama. This program is on the verge of that next level, flat out, because Alabama is the best team in the country. They're who I predicted to win the national title at the beginning of the year. And if Notre Dame can go toe-to-toe with them and Alabama's just a little bit better, that's a successful season for me at Notre Dame, and that's where you can use that loss to springboard you to future victories, which is exactly what Clemson did. When Clemson lost to Alabama in 2015, that actually gave them the springboard to move forward to win because, number one, it gave them confidence as a program that we can play with this team, and then number two, they were able to use that for recruiting success that then led to even better classes and more and 2 titles. So Notre Dame needs to kind of take from that page because, let's not forget, 4 years before Clemson won a national championship, 3 years before they played for the title, they gave up 70 in the Orange Bowl to West Virginia in a loss, right? So they turned the corner. Notre Dame can turn the corner too. It just needs to happen, and what we don't know yet is if Brian Kelly's the guy to make that happen. And Friday will tell us if he has taken steps forward or if it's the same old, and this is just who Notre Dame is under Brian Kelly.
Brian, will you make a prediction before Friday on IrishBreakdown.com?
I will. Vince Adair, who we do a podcast with at Irish Breakdown, he and I have kind of decided we got to get it done by tonight because we have, we're going to put a game prediction article out tomorrow. We're going to do a podcast tomorrow. We have to decide, and I'm actually leaning towards making 2 predictions. That's how much I'm sure a heart prediction and an analysis prediction of what I think. I may cheat and go that route, but. I'm just back and forth. I watch film sometimes and think, man, Notre Dame's got a shot in this game. They can really take advantage of that. And then other times I watch film of either Bama or Notre Dame, I'm thinking, this is going to – I've just been back and forth all along, and at the end of the day, I still can't get over the fact that when Notre Dame has been on the stage in the past, they have not shown up. They have not played in the manner that got them to that level, and that's a concern, and that's what's given me pause and hesitation to make this pick because what I see on film – tells me a different story from what my head tells me based on what we've seen from Notre Dame in the past.
And that's probably why I'm not traveling down to West Virginia to put some money on this game because the 20-point spread, I'm looking at this going, Notre Dame's going to be well within 20 points, and then you remember that Notre Dame doesn't show up during these games. So
if Notre Dame plays their game, anyone that put money on Notre Dame is going to win money.
Yes.
If they play their game.
Yeah, you're right.
They're not going to lose by 20. I'm not saying they're going to win, but they're not going to lose by 20.
Exactly.
The reason the spread is 20 is because of the past. It's not because of what these people see on film from Notre Dame or the statistical analysis or anything like that. It's because Notre Dame doesn't show up in these games, and the only way they could get people to put any money on Notre Dame was to have a giant spread. So if Notre Dame plays their game, whoever bets on Notre Dame will win money. But like you said, Ron, the next time Notre Dame plays great on a big stage will be the first time since 1993, 1992 that Notre Dame has done that. And that's why it's hard for me to say, yeah, I'm going to put my money on Notre Dame, or I'm going to predict Notre Dame to win the game.
Brian, always a pleasure. Look forward to catching up with you next Wednesday, brother.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
See you. That's Brian Driscoll, IrishBreakdown.com. That
Next
is
Wednesday could either be a really happy show or not.
Well,
so
we're going to
happy.
bag on Brian Kelly big time if Notre Dame once again doesn't show up.
I think it'll be the last nail in the coffin. I mean, like, if once again they don't show up, it is officially a trend. And it can't be denied anymore.
Exactly.
I mean, at some point you have to say this guy gets us to the plateau, but there's a ceiling that he can't get over. And
exactly.
At some point you have to accept that.
And that's the one thing that we're going to have to hopefully get over. Listen to me. I don't have anything to do with the Notre Dame
Brian
program.
Kelly's going to be the Alex Smith of coaches, where you can't win the big game.
Yeah. Well,
hopefully,
hopefully Friday Notre Dame shows up. All right, let's get to the phone lines. Dre Smith is on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. We go from Notre Dame football to YSU women's basketball. We're that good.
That's the kind of turns we can make on running.
Yeah, we're making a violent turn in the right direction. Dre, what's going on, brother?
Hey, guys. It's good to be with you. Happy New Year, and great to talk some YSU women's basketball finally. Hopefully we'll get this season started on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, it's only been, I don't know, about 9 months since we've seen YSU women's basketball. And, you know, to let everyone or give everyone a review of what we are supposed to see tomorrow afternoon when YSU takes, New Year's Day, Friday afternoon at 1 o'clock, and then Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock. Wright State comes to Beagley. Give everyone a little review on what YSU has coming back this year.
Yeah, Ron, a lot of pieces coming back from last year's team. Last year's team obviously had a lot of talent, but was very young and suffered some key injuries throughout the year. They went 13-17 a year ago, 6-12 in Horizon League play. And losing Mary Dunn, who is an all-conference player in the middle, was obviously a huge loss for this team last year. She missed the last 26 games with a knee injury, but she's going to be back in the fold. 6'3", redshirt senior from Washington, Pennsylvania, who has been the Horizon League Freshman of the Year. She was first-team all-conference and the Horizon League sixth player of the year as the top substitute in 2018-19. So she's going to be really the main focus of the team, definitely on offense in the middle. She is as good of a low-post player as you'll find in the Horizon League. So having her back off injury is huge. She really runs the offense through her. They love to get it inside, and once teams have to give her the double team and attention that she deserves down low, it opens up some open threes outside. And that's where you'll find players like Chelsea Olsen, a senior guard from Westby, Wisconsin, who is a preseason first-team All-Horizon League selection. She's been an All-Horizon League pick each year of her career, just continues to put up staggering numbers. She's 64 points away from 1,000. So Mary Dunn and Chelsea Olsen are the two first-team All-League players that will really make this thing go. And it's actually the first time the YSU has multiple returning first-team All-Conference players since 1999-2000. So having two first-team All-Conference players is going to be a big deal to lead the team. And then Mckenna Peters is a senior guard from LaGrange, Ohio, who is an all-league type player. She's YSU's top defensive player. Averaged a career high 10.6 points per game a year ago. So she's another key piece. And then also you have players like Maddie Shires, who set the YSU freshman record with 65 three-pointers a year ago, a young sophomore from Wausau, Wisconsin, who can really shoot it. You have other pieces like Taylor Pettit, who had a strong freshman year, sophomore guard from Schofield, Wisconsin. A lot of returners, a lot of young players that got a lot of experience last year because of injuries and different circumstances. So you have a lot of experience coming back. They return pretty much all of their scoring, all of their rebounding, majority of their minutes from a year ago. So this is a team that has a lot coming back. And there'll be some new faces as well, some freshmen, Malia Magestro from Kennedy Catholic, not too far away from here. A lot of local people are familiar with her. She's a talented freshman out of Hermitage who's going to get a lot of playing time. Nneka Obiazor is a freshman forward from Eden Prairie, Minnesota, who's really physical, really talented. You could see both of those freshmen in the starting lineup even on Friday, depending on how things go. And then another freshman is Emma Randall, freshman guard from Shelby, Ohio. So a lot of returning pieces, some new faces as well. It's going to be a team that I think has a lot of confidence going into this game against Wright State, but it's going to be a tough challenge because they're one of the best teams in the league.
What do you expect, especially the first game and maybe even the first half of the first game? The game plan is going to be to try to get this team kind of gelled together and get them into a rhythm. Maybe simplify the game plan a little bit in that first game, especially maybe the first half, to just try to get into a game kind of rhythm because it's their first game of the year. We're already so late in the season.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a challenge. And talking to Coach this week on our Coach's radio show, Penguin Playbook, he talked a lot about how they're going to have to substitute a lot just because he doesn't feel like they're going to be in the same game shape as Wright State. Wright State's played 6 games. They're 3-3, 3-1 in league play. So they're in that game shape. They've played games. They're in that flow where we just have not been able to get into that flow because of the stoppages in basketball activities due to some positive tests. So it's going to be a challenge. I think the legs are going to be a key thing to watch, the conditioning. YSU's only been able to get in a handful of practices, over the last couple of weeks going into this game, where Wright State's been full go and already played 6 games. So, he said you're going to see a lot of substitutions. A lot of players will play to try and keep players fresh, keep things simple, as you mentioned, just try and do the basics, the fundamentals, and really focus on that, considering it's the first game of the year. There's not a lot of time to knock off that rust. So I think that's exactly right. You keep the game plan simple, sub a lot, play a lot of players to stay fresh, because you got to come back on Saturday, regardless of what happens on Friday. You got to come right back on Saturday at 1 o'clock and play Wright State again on a back-to-back. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle things. Wright State is one of the best teams in the league, as I mentioned. They come in one of the top rebounding teams in the country. They have one of the best players in the league, an Angel Baker, a guard from Indianapolis, who is as good as it gets with the ball in her hand. So it's going to be a big challenge, but I think the Penguins are ready, and the Coach Barnes and his staff will give them a game plan that'll give them a good chance when we head out there on New Year's Day.
Dre Smith joining us on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. Dre, let's go back to last year, and I know that everyone was so disappointed in that there were so many injury concerns and problems, and it was a very thin roster for quite some time. And I made the comments that it's not going to look pretty in 2019, 2020, but it could very well pay dividends down the road now that these kids that really weren't supposed to be thrown into the fire last year, they got thrown into the fire. Now it's old hat for them, where these guys have a lot more experience on the collegiate level, and there's not going to be as much of a hesitation to put those kids into that situation if it's necessary, because they already have the experience due to last year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what gives the coaching staff a lot of confidence. They gained a lot of experience last year, and it was bumpy at times. As we mentioned, a lot of freshmen were involved. YSU had 6 freshmen a year ago and started at least 3 freshmen 22 different times. Freshmen accounted for 49% of the team's scoring, and that was the highest percentage of points scored by freshmen in YSU's Division I era. So it just gives you an idea of how much they were relying on freshmen a year ago. And, it was frustrating at times, and there were challenges along the way. But as you mentioned, I think it's going to pay off in the long run. And, I know Coach wasn't happy with the amount of games that they won last year, but when you lose one of your best players, Mary Dunn, Mckenna Peters was injured throughout the year. Emma Van Zanten, who was Mary Dunn's backup, also got hurt and missed most of the year. So they really had to play a style that they weren't used to playing. With only one active post player a year ago, they really had to play a 5-guard set at times and do a lot of spread and, outside the paint type of things, which they weren't used to, as normally this team wants to work things through the paint and then, kick outside for shots. So, yeah, a lot of experience was gained last year. You have an experienced group as all 5 players who started at least half the games last year are returning. So you get Chelsea Olsen back. She started 30 times a year ago. Jen Wendler made 25 starts in the post. She'll be back to add depth to that front court with Mary Dunn and Emma Van Zanten. Mckenna Peters started 24 times a year ago. Taylor Pettit had 23 starts as a freshman, and Maddie Shires had 21 starts as a freshman. So, yeah, a lot of experience coming back. I think everybody's really excited. Now it's just about figuring out how things gel, how players play together, and how the minutes are going to work, how those lineups will look. Obviously, a lot of players are going to play, so it's going to be an interesting challenge for Coach Barnes and his staff to try and figure out those lineups, who plays well with who, and who to insert at the right times. I think that's going to be the big challenge as we look toward Friday and Saturday.
Well, Dre, one of the things that I'm looking forward to is the inside-outside game that Youngstown State could possibly have. I mean, look, we all know Mary Dunn, one of the best in the league. There's no two ways about that. And this isn't a secret for anybody at Youngstown State or anybody in the Horizon League. YSU can shoot the lights out from the perimeter. So now all of a sudden you have how do you want to die? Do you want to die a quick death by us nailing threes out the wazoo, or do you want us to just put the ball inside and kill you in the post? Because one of two things are going to be the focal part of YSU's offense, depending on which one you planning on stopping, you being the opposition. This is a great spot for YSU to be in right now.
You, that option will always be stop the inside, because you will always want to make the other team have the lowest percentage shot possible. So YSU's a really good shooting team, but they're going to be a better shooting team if you let Mary Dunn take control of the game. So I think as an opposing coach, you're always going to have people putting more effort into stopping the inside post, and I think that's why one of the reasons why the Penguins have shot so well in the past couple of years, because they've been so well inside that teams can't really focus on stopping their perimeter game. I mean,
yeah, no, I think you're spot on, and when you look at Mary Dunn, we've had some great post players here with this program over the last few years. Mary Dunn, and then Sarah Cash before her, and Heidi Schlegel and others before her. It's no secret how we want to play is throw it inside and then get it outside for open threes. And, last year we just weren't able to do that without the post presence. Jen Wendler was our only active post player throughout the year, and she was a freshman who was learning a lot, so teams didn't really have to double her. So they were able to kind of stay locked to the shooters outside, and we were still able to make 222 threes last year, which was second in the league, and we led the league with 7.4 threes per game, as YSU's led the Horizon League 6 straight years in threes per game. So I think getting Mary Dunn back in the inside, as well as Emma Van Zanten, her backup, once she gets healthy, I think they feel really good about the post presence that they'll have, and that's why this team focuses so much on shooting. They really like to bring in players that can shoot the ball. Even Mary can step out and make a three. Pretty much everyone on the team can step out and knock down a three-pointer, and that's been evident with the shooting numbers that they've put up over the last, really 10 years, going back to even before Coach Barnes. It's been a great shooting program. So I think that's been the focus, is, understanding that, while Wright State might have the advantage with experience, having already played 6 games and having their legs under them, we can shoot the basketball, and we can stay in games that way. So even if you fall behind, you can come back quickly with the three-point shot. So I think that, they understand that, having the shooters that we have is going to give us a fighting chance on Friday and Saturday, regardless as if, we're not at the same conditioning level as Wright State.
We've hyped up their offense, but talk about YSU's defense and what kind of things they can do so well, and what kind of things they'll have to do well to slow down, as you said, one of the best teams in the Horizon League in Wright State.
Going to be the big focus. I think that the focus for YSU is going to be forcing things inside, pack the paint, and really force them to shoot from the outside. This is a Wright State team that is one of the best rebounding teams in the country. They're first in the league and 9th in the nation in rebounding margin at nearly plus 15, which is pretty remarkable. And they're also first in the nation in offensive rebounding at 21 offensive rebounds per game. So they really do a good job on the glass. But the one thing that they're not doing well is shooting the ball. They're last in the league at 19% as a team from three-point land, which is a pretty low number. So I think the game plan is going to be pack the paint, stop penetration, and force them to shoot from the outside, make them beat you from the three-point line where they haven't been able to shoot the ball very well. So I think that's going to be the game plan. When you look at Wright State, the game plan might be to make them shoot threes, but they have a lot of talented players that can really put a wrench in things. Angel Baker, who I mentioned, is a junior guard from Indianapolis who's leading the team and ranking 6th in the Horizon League at 14 points per game. She's a really dynamic player and a first-team All-League selection last year. She's one of the most impressive players I've seen live. In my 5-6 years of watching and calling YSU women's basketball, she's as impressive as it gets with the ball in her hands. Just does things that a lot of players can't do, has great speed off the dribble, but can also shoot it. So that's going to be a big challenge, is keeping her out of the paint, keeping her from playmaking and doing the things that she does. I think Mckenna Peters will get a lot of time on her. McKenna's been our top perimeter defender for the last couple of years. She usually draws that challenge of facing the other team's best player. So it's going to be a team effort, though. McKenna will probably get a chance at her, and then other players are going to have to step up and help out. And then, when you deal with Angel Baker, they also have a couple of players inside who are really talented. Shamari Hale is a 6'2" sophomore forward who was the Horizon League Freshman of the Year last year, really good rebounder and low post scorer. And then they have a 6'4" center, senior Tyler Frierson, who averages 8 points and 8 rebounds per game. She was on the Horizon League all-defensive team last year. At 6'4", she is a lot to deal with inside. She's really good defensively, blocks a lot of shots, gets a lot of offensive rebounds. So the challenges are numerous. I think YSU has a good game plan. We'll see what we can do, but hopefully we can get the win, because it's been a tough stretch against Wright State. They've won 3 straight in the series, 6 of the last 7, and 13 of the last 16. So they've been a thorn in our side, so it would be nice to start the new year off with a couple of wins against them.
Well, Dre, one of the other things, and if you're on the YSU women's basketball team, I think you need to probably hear this. Coach Barnes doesn't have a rotation yet because you haven't played a game yet. And I'm sure that Coach knows that everyone is going to probably need to get in there and play some minutes, because you don't want to tire a team out after one game and play the second game even more handicapped. So I think that it's incumbent for everyone to say, hey, not only am I going to give it my best shot because I want us to beat Wright State, I'm going to give us a best shot because I want to get into this rotation that Coach Barnes hasn't even made yet.
And yeah, you said the reality is that with all these players with so much experience because of last year, jobs are legitimately up for grabs this season. So it's going to motivate everyone to go out there and make the most of whatever minutes they get.
Yeah, if you're on scholarship to play women's basketball, you're on notice right now. You better come with your A game, because otherwise you won't get a lot of playing time this year.
Oh, yeah. No, you're exactly right. I mean, it's going to be a tryout of sorts. There's no doubt. It's that balance of trying to win the game. Obviously, you want to win a league game, 2, hopefully, over the weekend against Wright State. But you got to figure out your rotations. You got to figure out who's playing well. A lot changes when you get into game situations. You've had practices, you've had some off-season work, but nothing really. You don't know much until you get into the games and the bullets start flying, and you really find out about some of your players, especially young players. And this is a team that I think is going to get a lot of contributions from young players. And I think Nneka Obiazor and Malia Majester are both going to be, big parts of this team, as well as Emma Randall, those 3 freshmen. So, and also another player we haven't mentioned is Lexi Wagner, who's a redshirt freshman from Galesville, Wisconsin. She tore her ACL last year and missed the season, and she's a player they're really, really high on, a redshirt freshman. So there's a lot to figure out. There's a lot of depth and a lot of options, but a lot of unknowns as well. So I think Friday is going to be a feeling out process to kind of see what you have, see how people perform, keep people fresh. And then that if things don't go your way on Friday, hopefully you're fresh and you can come back again on Saturday to try and get that split.
Well, it's huge. If you don't win on Friday, you got to win on Saturday. In a perfect world, you protect home field, or in this case, home court. But at the very least, you got to get a split.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's tough. We've already lost 4 games. We were supposed to play at Northern Kentucky, supposed to play at Green Bay. All 4 of those games got canceled. So, you're already down now to 16 league games. You're not playing Milwaukee this year. So, you have a limited schedule and limited opportunities without non-conference games. So every game is going to be extremely important. These teams understand that, YSU hasn't played, so I'm sure they're going to try and push the pace. Wright State's a team that really likes to get out and run, get in the open floor, and test you in fast break situations. And when you haven't played a game and you're not in that game shape, that could be a challenge. So that's something to watch. How does YSU handle the pressure and the pace of the game? Because I think Wright State's also going to try and put some defensive pressure on us to test our skills, considering we've been a little rusty and haven't been able to get on the floor. So there's a lot to keep your eye on. It's going to stink not having fans at Beagley Center, I can tell you that. I know everybody's disappointed that there won't be a crowd on hand. Obviously, this women's program has gotten such tremendous support and fan support over the years from the community, and they feed off that crowd. Talking to the players and coaches this week, they really are going to miss those people in the stands with Horizon League protocols keeping fans out. So it's going to be a situation where the bench has to manufacture energy. The other players are going to have to, kind of help bring that energy that the crowd normally would. So going to be a different environment. No fans, back-to-back days. Everything's a little bit different this year, but just happy to have YSU women's basketball back and can't wait to get on the air on Friday.
You got that right. And we'll enjoy you on terrestrial radio. Richie Giuliano and I will be doing the games on the, I guess, the web, the ESPN3 stream. So that'll be fun.
Richie.
Yeah. So Richie and I we'll be doing the game, huh? So it should be. Listen, it should be an awful lot of fun. And this year, I just hope that we don't get any more COVID outbreaks and no more shenanigans. And hopefully 2021 is a stellar year for the YSU women.
I'm just hoping that when I get up on Friday, my phone doesn't say December 32nd.
Yeah, there you go. No kidding.
Yeah, I think we all need the new year. There's no doubt.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you, brother.
Oh, I can't wait. I hope you have a good call on Friday and Saturday, and looking forward to it. Let's get some wins. Thanks for having me on.
Dre, always a pleasure. Dre Smith, the YSU women's play-by-play broadcaster, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
You and Richie on the worldwide leaders of sports.
Yeah,
gotta love it.
Yeah, this will be an awful lot of fun. And look, I mean, if I'm Wright State, I'm pushing the envelope. I'm going to force these kids to run the ball.
I want to run. I don't know. I haven't really dived into Wright State film, but I don't know if they're a team that really likes to transition.
They do.
Really likes to.
Yeah, they do.
To push the ball, and that's what that has to be the game plan, because you have to make YSU work for everything they get, because they're not going to be conditioned.
No, it's just I'm going to run, and run some more.
Run.
Yeah, that's all there is to it. Yeah, I got an interesting tweet from Joe Shad. All of us remember Kurt Kuntz, who was the head football coach of the Struthers Wildcats, and he has gone on to become the assistant defensive backs coach with the hated Miami Dolphins. And I say hated because they're playing my Bills this week. Dolphins coach Brian Flores, weekly meeting with the opposition media members. Today, talking with the Bills media, he revealed that assistant defensive backs coach Kurt Kuntz leads the third down defensive meetings.
Wow.
How about that? This dude goes from 8 years, actually 9 years, 8 years, 2012 through 2019. 8 years as the head football coach of a high school team in the Mahoning Valley, and he is now in charge of third down meetings for a potential playoff team in the National Football League.
By the way, that playoff team also has one of the better defenses in the National Football League.
Boy, you aren't lying on that one.
Whether they make it or not.
Yeah, and they're also pretty good on third downs, which is Kurt Kuntz.
He also
went.
He's the D-backs coach, so he did a pretty good job with Patrick Mahomes, I must say.
Yeah,
that defensive secondary is legit.
Yeah, he's the assistant defensive backs coach, but you just went 8 years from high school ball to the National Football League, and all of these people that may have sat back and said, he's a high school coach, what the hell does he know? Pretty sure he knows a little bit, because he's doing a pretty nice job in Miami, I'm just saying.
And that's going to be a foothold. I mean, if you're doing that, you're putting in the work at Miami, and then people in the Miami organization talk you up, and you're gonna grow substantially.
He's gonna get a defensive coordinator job pretty quickly.
Let's go.
That's unbelievable.
Struthers.
Man, that's Struthers High School representing. I mean, this is the same high school that Bill Belichick's dad graduated from and is a member of the Wall of Fame.
Struthers is just like mic drop.
Yeah. So Struthers is sitting back going, yeah, we've done this. We're used to this stuff. We have guys and girls that have come to our high school and have represented our area really nicely.
Been there, done that. We're good.
Wow. That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. I when I heard that Kurt Kuntz was going to be the assistant DB coach, I was like, okay, obviously he knows someone down there. To have him now leading the third down defensive meetings, yeah, okay, you have my attention. This guy has obviously done a fantastic job.
And
this year.
Speaking of Struthers, a full day of basketball at Struthers today because their JV boys start at 2 and the varsity at 3, and then JV girls at 5:30 and varsity at 7. So they're having a full day of basketball.
Who are the Wildcats playing today?
The boys are playing Jefferson and the girls are playing Finch.
Okay.
So
did you see the boys' victory on Tuesday night against Perry, previously undefeated Perry?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, that's.
And what's scary is the coach wasn't happy with their performance. It was he thought it was kind of sloppy.
Okay.
And when you we just sloppily beat an undefeated team. Perry.
Yeah. That's God. I can't wait for Cheney and to have their games, and then just put these two guys or put these two teams. Well, I mean, look, you're going to have the two districts smashing into Form 1. Which district do we get? Because all of the Trumbull County and Mahoning County teams converge into Boardman. Which other district are we getting? Are we getting the Akron St. Vincent St. Mary district? Because if that's the case, one of these teams stays in the Boardman district. The other team gets to slay the monster. I'd love to see it.
And really, Struthers is going to be a very good pick for that one seed that gets to pick where they want to go.
Oh, and then there's no two ways about that.
Everyone else has to kind of decide.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that works out. Even if you're the 2 seed, and someone else is the 1 seed, you can decide to avoid them altogether until regionals.
Sure.
So if they're one of the top 2 seeds, they're going to be sitting in the driver's seat.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if let's say that it is, and we don't know this for sure because Northeastern Ohio has done Drama Queen 101.
Right,
but let's assume for a second that Akron St. V is the other district. Who do you? I mean, seriously, pick your poison here. Do you want to go up against St. V or do you want to go up against Struthers? And no offense, people are going to go. We know what St. V's all about. We don't know what this team's about. Let's go over here.
And that would be a mistake.
And that would be a mistake because you guys don't want no part of this Struthers team. This is wow. This is a good program.
They might be able to compete with Akron, St. Vincent, St. Mary.
I thought Cheney could have competed with St. V's last year. I don't know if they would have beaten them, but I think they would have competed with them.
In this year, with everything that's going on and the stoppages and starting, and anybody can really beat anybody because of all the craziness that's been going on.
Yeah, this is. Man, this is going to be fun.
If you want to upset City in the tournament, this is the big year that I think it could really happen.
I don't think there's any two ways about that. I mean, look, Division 3 and 4, we're pretty much sure how this is going to go. The Grand Valley and Struthers will smash in Division 4. Harding and Salem will undoubtedly be the 2 districts in Division 3. I got no idea what Division 2 and 1 are going to be like.
Because let's say, for example, there's a really good team that is one of the Trumbull County teams, like McDonald, playing really well.
Yeah.
They get to the tournament, but they haven't played as many games. So all of a sudden, they're in the tournament, and they're playing against a decent team record-wise, but they've played a whole schedule. They've been playing since
Lisbon.
Yeah.
We'll throw a name out.
That could be seriously dangerous because all of a sudden, the reps kind of come back to haunt you in the tournament. So
sure.
I think that this year's tournament could be very interesting.
This is where yesterday, while you were speaking of reps, you were repping all kinds of basketball games.
And by the way, Nordonia has 2 Division I recruits on their team.
Yeah.
They did not disappoint.
Oh, I'll bet.
I'm going to tell you, Hoban has a couple that will be. They're juniors, so they haven't they haven't committed anywhere.
Yeah.
But they're going D1. Lene Riley will go Division I. There's just no way about it.
Yeah. Well, now I've lost my train of thought. The Vindicator and Tribune Chronicle sports editor Doug Chapin, he and I were talking about what we were just discussing and the fact of what do you do with these Trumbull County schools? What do you do with Cheney and East? And my solution is, hey, the best teacher is playing games. So I'm scheduling 3 or 4 games a week for the first 2 weeks,
if you
can, and say, okay, I'm gonna practice on Monday, play a game on Tuesday and Wednesday, practice on Thursday, play a game Friday and Saturday for 2 weeks, and all of a sudden now I've got 8 games in. Now I can go Tuesday, Friday, occasionally throw a Saturday game in there, and knock on wood, you're going to get close to 20 games in.
Yeah.
And then you
And
should
that'll
be okay.
avoid what we talked about, where you're playing 14 and then the other team comes in with 22.
Yeah.
They could upset you. I mean,
Now, and here's what I would do. I would start calling up other Trumbull County schools, or in let's say LeBray's case, or one of the bigger
LeBray's.
Trumbull County schools, Harding, Howland. You call Youngstown Cheney or Youngstown East up and say, hey, we're in the same boat. Why don't you guys come up here, or we'll go down there and let's play a game or so, and let's get 2 games if you're Cheney, 2 games, one against Harding, one against Howland, maybe go up against some of the other Trumbull County teams. And then just go from there.
LeBray looked really good last night, by the way.
Oh my goodness, yes, yeah, 64-47 over Ridge last night. So, yeah, not bad.
It's good to see all these Trumbull County teams start up again, though. Middle Ridge and LeBray and McDonald and all the other ones that are going to be starting here soon. It's good to see kind of everyone on our YSN wall start to really kick up basketball. We have a lot of games scheduled for next week.
Oof.
And
yeah.
We're going to try to get to as many as possible, but when you look at our games at a glance, it's like
we're sitting here and going, Happy New Year, and then we're like, what are we doing with all this? Oh, man.
We might have announcers calling one game and then remote calling another one simultaneously.
Yeah, this could be fun.
Might pull a Kevin Harlan from last year calling. Which game are you calling? I'm calling both games.
That was pretty cool what he did. That was pretty outstanding. All right, 330-886-0813, the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline open for business. We'll take a time out, be back, open some phone lines, continue talking high school hoops, anything else on your mind, hit us up on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. Back in a bit.
Hello, I'm Greg Burbick with G. Burbick Farms. For the last 100 years, my family has farmed in Columbiana and Mahoning counties. I began raising cattle in 1996 with the goal of providing a better product for you and your family on the dinner table. Our grass-fed and grain-supplemented Black Angus beef are raised with no hormones, steroids, or antibiotics. We're known for our hometown-friendly service and incredible tasting products. We're locally owned and have customers across the tri-state area. Our products go from our farm to your family. Stop by our farm on New Buffalo Road or visit us on the web at gburbickfarms.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. G. Burbick Farms, it just tastes better.
Family Insurance, your local Medicare and retirement resource. We're excited to have sports back. Whether you're on the field or cheering from the stands, sports unifies communities and brings hope for the future. We're all one team working together. At Myers Family Insurance, we know the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is October 15th through December 7th. Now's the time to make sure your plan continues to meet your needs for the upcoming year.
Call today.
WRS Wealth Advisors, the area's premier wealth and retirement specialists. Located on South Avenue in Boardman.
Welcome back to a Wednesday edition of Running Point on ysnlive.com. Ron Potesta with you. Many, many thanks to WRS Wealth. They are the ones responsible for allowing you, the fans, to be able to watch all of our basketball broadcasts for free. They have essentially paid the bill in order to make sure that we can put these games on for free. They did a really, really wonderful thing. So definitely check out and support the good folks over at WRS Wealth. They have made it possible for you, the fans, to be able to watch all of our basketball games at no charge this year. All right, let's go to the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning hotline. I got a blast from the past. Irish Mike, what's up, brother?
How you doing today, Ronnie?
I'm good, man. Yourself?
I'm doing well, my friend. Just a couple topics for you, Ron. One, being a lifelong Cleveland Browns fan, I thought of this the other night watching the Bills play the Patriots on Monday Night Football, and I know you're probably elated and you wanted them to score 100 more points if they could. But,
I wanted them to drop 50 on New England in the worst way. Trust me.
Yeah, and I thought to myself, I thought of the guy who's no longer general manager, John Dorsey, who I call the arrogant John Dorsey. A few other adjectives in there, Ronnie, that I can't say on the air.
Yes. I believe one begins with the letter A and the other one ends with the letter E.
Yeah, and the letter P's in there too. But
there you go.
He made mention back in the draft in April 2018 how Baker Mayfield was by far the best quarterback, and he got the best quarterback. Okay. Now I've argued with friends over the years that I'm not the biggest Baker Mayfield guy of all time, and I think the Browns this summer have to make an interesting decision based upon the fact that how much money are they going to give him for how long, because you don't want to alienate him, not give him the money, because, obviously they want him to be around another 3, 4, 5, 6 years. So I don't view him as a franchise quarterback, but you can't get rid of him either, if that makes sense to you. But let me say this, that Josh Allen was better off going to Buffalo because his first 2 years in Buffalo, he was okay. And the Browns, obviously Baker Mayfield but people forget Baker played 5 years of college football, so he had a lot of experience. He started over 40 college games. So he could hit the ground running from day one in the NFL because of his college experience at Texas Tech and then Oklahoma. And I'm kind of glad Josh Allen didn't come to Cleveland. I think he's a version of John Elway, and I think he's clearly better than Baker Mayfield, okay? Not a doubt. He does all the things you want a quarterback to do, from the pocket to win football games at a big-time level in the NFL. But had he had struggles in Cleveland, Ronnie, the first year or two, the fans were so desperate for winning, they would have turned on him right away, and it would probably have been a bad situation in Cleveland. Does that make sense to you, Ron?
No, I think it makes perfect sense, and I think that the Browns fans would have destroyed this kid within 1 year, because Allen was not a good quarterback his rookie year, and he was better last year, but he still wasn't a top half NFL quarterback.
What he's had that Baker hasn't is stability. I mean, he would have had to go through Greg Williams and Freddie Kitchens.
And that's the other thing, too.
Destroyed it.
That's the other thing, too. I mean, Baker has gone through this. This is what, his third offensive coordinator, his second coach, actually his third coach, if you include Williams. So, I mean, I don't necessarily think that Allen would have survived there.
And I digress when I make this comment, but did Freddie Kitchens sneak down on the sideline Sunday and coach the Cleveland Browns against the Jets on Sunday? Was that Freddie Kitchens over there? Oh no, yeah, I was Kevin.
Well, I mean, all I know is listen.
I don't want to ever see that game plan again in the history of Cleveland Browns football. Okay, that was a horrible offensive game plan.
Yeah, Stefanski outthought himself on Sunday. Yeah, I honestly thought he was.
I listened to talk radio, Ronnie. I've heard all the excuses. They were practicing in the parking lot at 8:15 in the morning. But they, come on, really. That was the game plan from day one. They had that game plan all week, and then when you lost receivers, he couldn't adjust on the fly.
Yeah, it wasn't one of his better performances, and I think the coup de grace on Sunday was 4th and 1, actually 4th and less than a yard, and you've got the B running back there instead of Nick Chubb. I mean, look, no offense to Kareem Hunt, he's a fantastic running back. He ain't Nick Chubb. What the hell are you doing? Not only are you not having Nick Chubb on the field, he doesn't even get the ball. He's not even on the field, and you're allowing Baker Mayfield to try to get a first down. That just, I shook my head and said, you got to be kidding me with this.
It reminded me of back in that championship between USC and Texas, in the 4th down where Reggie Bush wasn't on the field for USC, and you're thinking, why in the world is he not? Now everyone knows it's going to White.
Yeah, everyone knows it's going to go to White, absolutely.
And then, Ronnie, just switching focus over to college football. You got the big college games on, and we can go on and on about college football. I think college football is broken. I think we all agree with that. I mean, fans start talking in July about the 2 games they care about, which is the semifinal game and then the final game. And I think college football, it's not going to ever fix itself. It is what it is, and you have to adjust on the fly as best you can. And the NCAA and other institutions let it get out of control big time, and we can go, like I said, we can do a 3-hour show just on that alone. But as a lifelong Notre Dame fan, and I know you're a Notre Dame fan, Ronnie, I think Notre Dame fans are unrealistic to the point, Ron, of, right now Notre Dame football under Brian Kelly the last several years has been better than 95% of the college football programs out there. And there's only 3 programs, I think, obviously Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, that just simply out-talent them, from a talent standpoint. And I think the fact that Kelly's been 43 wins and 7 losses over his last 4 years, going into the Clemson ACC title game, Ronnie, they had won 16 straight games in a row against a very competitive schedule. You know what I mean? I think Notre Dame fans are losing sight of the fact that they lost to Clemson big in the ACC title game, and there's probably a pretty good likelihood they're going to lose big to Alabama on Friday in the NCAA semifinal game, that they're going to look at 2020 and say, this was a terrible year. What's the state of the program right now? Should we fire Brian Kelly? And I just think that's an unrealistic approach to where they're at as a program. I think he's trying to say we have to win the football games by building a great offensive line and great defensive line, because they struggle to get elite, skilled, talent players like wide receiver, running back, quarterbacks that are going to Alabama, Clemson, Ohio States of the world.
Well, look, they have done well for themselves, but the one problem that I've always had with Brian Kelly is in big games, in the biggest of spotlights, Notre Dame normally craps on themselves. And it's not that it's not that the talent is a very large discrepancy. I don't think it is. I think that it's just when they are not willing to throw the ball down the field with guys that are open, not insanely open, but open. And Ian Book refuses to throw the ball down the field because he doesn't want to make a mistake. Or your offensive line that is a really good offensive line, you have one bad game. And all this talent.
Ron, if you look at the Florida-Alabama game, the SEC title game, Trask, 3 or 4 times he threw the ball 35, 40 yards downfield. There were guys that were not open. They were covered. It was a one-on-one. And he just let his receivers make a play. People say, Alabama's secondary stinks. They're terrible. You can score. Those guys can play. They're first-round draft picks in the NFL. Patrick Surtain III is a first-round draft pick in April.
Oh, there's no two ways about it. No two ways about it. But and I hope that Ian Book took a page out of Trask's notebook and said, all right, I'm going to have to, for the only chance that I have and we have of beating this team, I got to make plays down the field. And I got to stop being so afraid of making mistakes. And if I see a guy with a sliver of a window open, I have to make the decision to throw the ball and hope and pray that my receiver does his job.
Yeah, I really think this, Ron. I talk sports with everybody. I'll be down in Latonia tonight. Maybe I'll see you down in the ball game. But, when I talk to people, right now reminds me of this. Do you remember 10 years ago, it was May of 2011, Jim Tressel resigned as head football coach at Ohio State. If you look at Tress's career at Ohio State, he did a tremendous job. He won a national title in 2002, played in 3 national championship games in 2002, 2006, and 2007. In his 10 years, he won 7 or 8 Big Ten championship games. He went 9-1 against Michigan. You can go on and on all the great things he did. But when he left, there was a segment of Ohio State fans out there, not all, but there was a Notre Dame fan, that when he left, they were okay with it. Because, 8 months later, after, the 2011 season, Luke Fickell was their head coach for that year, they hired Urban Meyer. And when Tress left, they felt like he was a great coach, but he couldn't beat the Alabamas, he couldn't beat the LSUs, he couldn't beat the USCs of the world under Pete Carroll and that dynasty had out there, that there were still 4 or 5 programs better than Ohio State, as good as the job as Tressel was doing. And I'm talking Tressel 08, 09, 2010. I'm not talking his first 4 years. I'm talking about because he recruited Ohio very heavily. You know what I mean? He got the Midwest kiss. Then he cherry-picked Texas, California, and Florida in recruiting. And when they brought Urban Meyer in 8 months later, they viewed him as a much, much better recruiter than Jim Tressel, and that he would recruit the entire country and bring more talent there. And that's exactly what happened in that regard. So I look at Brian Kelly right now and say, is Brian Kelly in the same boat as Tressel was his last 2 or 3 years at Ohio State? And I wonder. That's why I brought that scenario up to you earlier.
Well, here's the difference. Brian Kelly's yet to deliver a national championship. I mean, Ohio State fans were delusional from the get-go. You want to talk about the most delusional fan base in the history of college football, it's right here in Columbus, Ohio. There are the single most delusional fans in the world because the reality is Ohio State's only won 5 national championships since 1968. That's 52-plus years of football. They've only won 5 national titles. I mean, at the end of the day, any other program would be thrilled with 5 national championships in 52 years, except for the delusional knuckleheads in Columbus.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to win national championships. And let's face it, I mean, it's harder to recruit at Notre Dame than it is Ohio State or Clemson or Georgia, Alabama, LSU. And people say, well, you're making excuses. That's not – it's just a reality. It is. And it's been that way for decades now. And it's not – people say, well, you're using that as an excuse. You're using that excuse. I say some kids they want to get to the NFL. They want to make millions of dollars, okay? They don't want to do in the library doing research. And I'm not saying Alabama and Clemson and Ohio State are bad academic institutions, but when you sign 5-star kids, and this is the reality, Ron, I know you hate these recruiting services the last 10 or 15 years like Rattle and 24/7, but all these 5-star kids, no matter where they go, including Notre Dame, when they get to set foot on campus, they expect you to be there 3 years, and they're going to go to the NFL. Win, lose, or draw, it doesn't matter. Fans care more about national championships than players do. And I'm not saying players don't want to win, but it's not their number one priority. Those 5-star kids, their number one priority is make me a first-round draft pick in the NFL so I can become a multimillionaire. That's their number one priority. That is a fact.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that wholeheartedly. They're not there to study or to get an education. They're there because, they've been told by everyone, and this is why I hate recruiting services. They've been told by everyone, i.e. the recruiting services, that they're the cat's meow, that they're a different breed, that they're going to be the most important thing in the world, that they're going to be entitled to have a first-round draft pick. And then you got the kids that swallow this crap up and say, well, these people tell me that I'm great. Obviously, I am great. And then when you turn around and go on campus and you see these other equally great players that have been equally treated the same way, now all of a sudden you get into a foreign world where now you're not going to be entitled. Now you're going to be just another person unless you have really stepped up your game to the point of I'm a franchise of all franchise.
Well, Ronnie, what's your thoughts on, when people recruit these 16, 17-year-old kids, what's your thought on, Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma saying, we're quarterback you? Look at Baker Mayfield, Kyle Murray, obviously the kid from the killed quarterback from the Eagles now that transferred him from Alabama. You got 3 starters there. We're quarterback you. Or Ohio State saying, we're DB you with our defensive backs in the NFL. Or Notre Dame saying, we're offensive line you with all of our offensive linemen in the NFL. All these schools use a mantra at a particular position to say, look at us, look how many guys we put in the NFL. To these 16, 17-year-old kids that are junior and senior high school. What's your thoughts on that?
They're just as guilty. Mike, they're just as guilty. I mean, everyone's guilty of this. Look, I've said it for years. A kid that is incredibly special in athletics at a very early age when it is abundantly clear that the person is special and a little bit different than the other folks, that person gets treated a whole lot different than the other folks. And it's wrong.
Okay.
It's wrong.
Yeah. I mean, but what I'm saying, Ronnie, is like I said at the beginning of our conversation, college football is not moving backward. I think most college football fans agree that college football is broke, and it's been broken for years, and it's getting worse and worse. I mean, I'm not the biggest college basketball fan. I don't really follow college basketball till probably mid to late February, early March when the tournaments, the regular season comes in. You have the conference tournaments and obviously March Madness that we all love. The one and done thing in March Madness. But the one thing college basketball does have over college football right now is the fact there's 10 or 15 different programs that can win a national title in late March, early April in college basketball. And college football the last several years, last 5 to 10 years, you can't say that anymore. There's really only 4 or 5 programs that realistically every year can win a national championship in college football.
Okay, here's a scenario, and I want you to grade this and tell me if this would be acceptable. And it's our mutual friend Brian Driscoll brought this up, and I think it's a fantastic idea. Anthony and I absolutely love this idea. We'll let you figure this one out. You play the entire 12-game season. You play your conference championship games, and then you put people in the bowl games. All right. The outcome of the bowl games now determines who is in your Final Four. And essentially, you're extending college football by 1 week because, as you know, the bowl games are the semifinals, the two large bowls. This time around, it's, the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl are the two bowl games that lead to the national championship. Well, I mean, it's in name, it's the Rose Bowl. But so play the bowl games and then have the college football semifinals the weekend of the next weekend of New Year's Day, where New Year's Day, all the bowl games are played. January the 2nd, the committee meets, and they put together the final 4 teams based on what happened in the bowl games. Here's your final 4, and now we're going to go the next weekend, which this year would be January the 9th. You would play your semifinals. And January the 16th, or if you want to put it on a Monday, January the 18th is your national championship game. If you just leave the system as is, but use the bowl games to finally determine who gets the number 1, 2, 3, and 4 seed, are you good with that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, what's the problem is, Ron, we have 12-game regular season now, and now every conference has a championship game, which makes it 13 game, and then you have the semifinal and then the final. So if you're a really good team, you can play 15 college games. And I think it would be nervous. These guys would say, oh, that's too many games now. You're adding another game onto the schedule.
Well, now hang on a second, Mike, because the FCS is doing the exact same thing. If you get into the national championship game with the FCS, you will have played 15 games.
Yeah, and that's the way it is in major college football now. If Alabama, whoever plays the national title game on a normal year would be game number 15. 12 regular season, 1 conference championship game, and then the semifinal and final. That'd be a total of 15. It's been that way for the last 7 years now. So, if you go to an 18 playoff, then that game would be 16 games. If you go to a 16-game playoff, now you have a 17-game season for the best teams, of course, to get to the finals. I mean, so I like that idea. The other idea I heard Ronnie and a guy brought up, and I thought it was a great idea, and he said this should have been going on every year since 7 years ago, that whoever makes the Final Four, we'll use this year's Final Four, for example, for 2021 season, that the opening games next year, in September 1st, 2021, Notre Dame should have to play Alabama to open the season, and Ohio State should have to play Clemson to open the season. That every year the Final Four contenders would have to face off in the first regular season game of the following year to kick off the college football season.
That's not a bad idea. Yeah. Now, the only problem with that is ADs would have to
4 or 5 years ahead of time.
Yeah,
yada yada.
Yeah, you'd have to go on the fly on that one, and especially if you're a team that is supposed to be a Final Four team, and then you don't make the Final Four, and now the AD has got to scramble because he was under the impression the team was going to be good enough to be a Final Four team, so he left the first weekend open. Now you got to scramble.
And let's be honest, Ronnie, why wouldn't Alabama, Ohio State, Clemson, Notre Dame like that idea? Because you're going to have 2 winners and 2 losers, correct?
Oh, absolutely.
Early September, right?
Yeah.
Right? And the reality, how many 2-loss teams have ever made the Final Four?
That would be a 0.
0.
Yeah.
So it's September 2nd, Ronnie. You start off the year with a loss. Now you got to win 12 or 13 straight. Another loss, and you're eliminated. So you can be eliminated, from the Final Four by the end of September. And the Clemsons, Ohio States, Alabamas, they don't want to hear about that.
No, exactly. If
they're going to get eliminated, they want to be eliminated in late November, early December. They don't want to be eliminated literally on Labor Day and say, boy, we already got 1 loss in our belt because we had to play another top 5 program right out of the gate.
It would be a great idea. Unfortunately, none of the colleges would want to do that for the very same reason that you just mentioned, Mike.
Yeah, I know. I mean, they'd rather schedule North Texas State win 56-3 and say we're 1-0.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, Ronnie, I'll let you go. Happy New Year to you and your family, Ronnie. Great listen.
All right, happy New Year to you as well, Mike. Always a pleasure. 330-886-0813. I love Brian Driscoll's idea. I mean, it's
okay. So in his idea, so Notre Dame and Alabama would still play each other. It would just be playing each other in the Rose Bowl instead of playing each other in the semifinals. Am I correct in that?
Well, yeah. I mean, what would happen is
you'd be the normal bowl.
Would be the normal bowl system.
Okay, so the Rose Bowl would be like the
Rose Bowl's Pac-12, the Big Ten. So Ohio State would be playing Oregon.
Yeah.
All right, Ohio State's playing Oregon in the Rose Bowl. The Orange Bowl has always been a ACC school, so let's put Clemson in there against whoever.
Usually ACC, SEC, so it'd probably be Clemson, Bama.
Clemson, SEC also has the Sugar Bowl as
It
well.
might be Clemson, A&M.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of those
Either
two.
way.
I mean, you'd have some really
And
good
the other
bowl
one,
games.
The other one would be Notre Dame versus whoever the Clemson's not playing.
Yeah, you would have some really good bowl games. I mean, Notre Dame playing Cincinnati. Tell me Cincinnati wouldn't want that.
Ohio State playing Cincinnati.
Ohio State playing Notre Dame or Ohio State playing Cincinnati. I mean, if you have the regular bowl games and then out of the ashes of the regular bowl games, whoever has won those games and has done enough where the committee gets together January the 2nd or January the 3rd if they play a game on January 2nd, which, again, if in order to do this, you got to make sure all the bowl games are done by January 1st. And then you just say, okay, here we go. January 2nd, committee meets. They put together their Final Four. And then the next weekend, you're having your national semifinals. One
All of a
versus
sudden,
4,
though,
2 versus 3.
Brian loves that the fact that the regular season has such importance. That puts a little less importance on the regular season and more importance on your bowl game because, like Texas A&M, their regular season wasn't good enough to get into the playoffs. But all of a sudden, hey, we're in a bowl game. If we win this game, we're in the playoffs.
Well, no, not necessarily, because if you're not in your conference championship game and you're playing a smaller bowl, you're not playing against a good opponent.
What if you're like a 2-win ACC team that wins the Coastal? Because that happens a lot.
That's true.
And then you win the ACC championship game, you go to the Orange Bowl, and you win the Orange Bowl. We going to put that team in the playoffs?
Hell no, you're not.
But, I mean, like...
But, I understand where you're coming from. But, again, the regular season would still have to be huge because you want to be able to get your team into the conference
the
championship.
September games wouldn't be as huge. And Brian doesn't like that. Brian likes to have September games matter as much as...
But see, we have to get into that as well. Because the common theory of, well, it's just a September game. It's kind of like the baseball fan that sits back and says, it's a mid-April game. Who the hell cares? Are you kidding me? You can lose your division in April. You can't win your division in April, but you can lose your division in April.
They take that because people in the baseball world say we can't judge a team based on April and a chunk of May. That doesn't mean that those games don't matter. It's just... We can't say this team's going to be good, this team's not going to be good based on what they do in April, May, because a lot of teams
they don't gel.
They have really good Aprils,
and
then
they stink,
or they have really bad Aprils, and then all of a sudden they're good. So you can't judge a team, but it's still very important those games, winning or losing.
If you bury yourself in April, i.e., the New York Yankees last year, or the Tampa Bay Rays 2 years ago,
you're in trouble.
You're in trouble. You're not winning your division. Champ, you're on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. What's up, brother?
How are you guys doing today?
Good.
I kind of was rambling on about this topic a week ago, and I got some statistics to back up what I have a problem with this college football 14 playoff. First of all, we know there's 130 Division I football schools. Now, 65 of those are the Group of Five. Okay, we're talking about the Cincinnati's, the MAC, the Sun Belt, the USA Conference USA. And we can agree on a 14 playoff. The odds of one of those teams getting into the 14 playoff right now, it ain't going to happen because they could go undefeated. But the way the rules are set up with strength of schedule, I mean, they may have 1 or 2 games on their schedule, but other than that, they just don't come close to strength of schedule. Most of them, the strength of schedule are in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And they have to play their conference schedules, and if they have 1 or 2 games out of this conference, they absolutely have to win them. But even if they win them and go undefeated, there's no guarantee they're going to be selected. I think that's it's a farce that we actually talk about those teams every Tuesday when they were saying, oh, we really respect BYU, but they're undefeated, they're 15th. And Cincinnati and so on and so forth. So let's just take those 65 Group of Five teams, not even count them in this whole formula.
I do think if Cincinnati goes and beats Georgia and then they have an undefeated season again, I would find it hard-pressed to leave them out of the playoffs.
I'll guarantee you they're out of the playoffs.
I said the same thing. I said the same thing about UCF. They went undefeated. They beat Auburn, but the next year they lost a game that they shouldn't have lost. If they went undefeated that next year, because they already had the respect of beating Auburn, if they would have went undefeated that next season in 2018, I believe, they probably the college football playoff committee would have been really hard pressed to find a way to not let them in because they were already embarrassed for leaving them out, and they went and beat Auburn in a bowl game. So, and Auburn that year beat Alabama, by the way. So, The committee would have been really hard pressed to leave UCF out if they went undefeated the next year after that. They didn't. They lost a game they shouldn't have lost.
Well, I respectfully disagree only because of the way that the revenue is divided up. They just don't want these teams. They give them one slot in the New Year Day games, one slot.
Well, they don't want them in there, but if the team forces the issue, and like I said, if UCF goes undefeated again twice in a row, then all of a sudden, and they've already beaten Auburn, they've proven they can compete at that level, there's really nothing you can do about it and still stay face.
Well, first of all, it's very hard for a team to go undefeated 2 years in a row. Secondly, it ain't going to happen. It's a farce they even include them in the rankings because they just can't measure up. Even if they go undefeated, their still strength of schedule is going to be in the 70s, and you just can't compete that. But the bottom line is they are the group of five. They're the stepchild, and they're the one group that besides like the Division II, NIAA, formerly Division I AA, every other sport has a championship, and they're kind of left out there. But their prize is they get these other little bowl games they can go to, and one team, just one of those 65 teams, gets the pleasure of getting into the New Year's Day games. But let me continue on with my point about the power conferences now. You got 5 power conferences where there's 64 teams plus Notre Dame. Now, if this system is so fair, these stats really are just staggering. Let's look at the Big Ten. The Big Ten has 14 schools in the Big Ten. Now, this championship 2-team playoff started in 2006. For 8 years, they had 2 teams, and then starting in 2014, they had 4 teams. So 8 times 2 for the first 8 years was 16, and then 7 times 4 for the last 7 years. So that's 44 slots altogether. The Big Ten, which has 14 schools, 13 of the 14 schools have combined for one playoff appearance in the Big Ten. Michigan State made it in 2015. They lost 38-0. The other 6 appearances are all Ohio State. So the Big Ten's last win in the championship, these 14 players, their last win was in 2014, Ohio State, when they won 2 games and won the national championship. The Pac-12, 15 years, 10 of the 12 schools in the Pac-12 have combined for, 3 appearances? 3. 2 Oregons and 1 Washington. And Oregon won the one game the year they played Ohio State. They won the semifinal game. Washington lost their game. So they've had 1 playoff win since 2006 in these playoffs. 1. This is the Pac-12. The Big 12. 9 of the 10 schools combined for 1 playoff appearance since it started. And that's the team that did is Texas. They get in 1 year and they lost. Oklahoma's been in 5 times. They're 0-5. In other words, since this whole thing started, the Big 12 has not won 1 playoff game. They have 0 playoff wins. So now you have 3 of the 5 power conferences have combined. There's 36 schools combined for 3 playoff wins. Ohio State has 2. Oregon has 1. I mean, really, this is a fair system when 3/5 of your power conferences have combined 3 wins. By the way, LSU has 3 total wins by themselves. And the sad thing is that Alabama and Clemson have a combined 15 wins. 15 wins. And this is SEC has dominated this in Clemson. This system is garbage. It's not fair at all. This is the most. It's like the NBA where there's like 2 or 3 teams. It's worse than the NBA because realistically, what you're talking about here, these are power conferences. No, this is basically the SEC, Ohio State, and Clemson, and everybody else. And the reason I think the problem right now is, and I love the 4-team playoff because I think it really protects the regular season. I think the regular season means much more than any other sport compared to the basketball, where when Duke and North Carolina can play 8 times in January and February, it doesn't mean anything because they're both going to be in the tournament. That's what I love about this college football. But right now, I'm ready to say, you know what, this 4-team playoff, granted, it makes the regular season more important, but how fair is this when most of the country doesn't really care about this game? I mean, the Pac-12, they might as well put the Pac-12 in Hawaii right now. They don't even pay attention anymore. And the Big 12 is drifting farther away. This tournament has become, like I said, it's all about the SEC, Ohio State, and Clemson, and then Oklahoma they let in every once in a while, and they lose, they get blown out every time they're in this. This is why I think they need to start thinking about going to an 18 playoff. And I think the reason why that you go to an 18 playoff because these 4 teams, and if you notice the 4 teams I just mentioned are the teams that dominate, those are the top recruiting teams every year. The top 5 you can find Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, and a lot of these SEC teams because the television exposure is over the top. And I think that, like, what we love about college basketball tournament is that first 2 weeks where a 14 can beat a 3 seed. We've had many 10s over 7s. We've had 12 over 5s. That's what we love about the NCAA tournament. Why not give a chance for a team like Texas A&M to go to an 18 playoff to play and maybe upset these? Because I think they could upset one of these top 4 teams.
Well,
it's terribly unfair.
Champ, here's the problem. When you get to the Sweet 16, nobody's rooting for Cinderella. I'm sorry, they don't. Nobody's
They're
rooting for
gone.
Cinderella after the Sweet 16. They were like, okay, cute little story. You did your thing.
Unless it's Loyola Marymount and Sister Mary.
Yeah, and then you're giving all the Catholics are saying, okay, yeah, we got to root for Loyola Marymount, otherwise this nun's going to kick our ass. I mean, let's be honest. But no, nobody's rooting for Cinderella after the Sweet 16 unless you have something to do with that college. Nobody's rooting for them. They want blue bloods. When it's all said and done, they want the Dukes and the North Carolinas and the UCLAs and the Kentuckys and the Indianas 40 years ago into the national title game.
And most times it ends up being one of those teams going to win the national championship. There might be some chaos in the first round, but usually there's like maybe 6 teams that you can say are in the pool of the teams
pretty
that are
much.
Villanova, North Carolina, Michigan State, Duke, Virginia. Those kind of teams that you always know it's going to be a 1 or 2 seed most of the times. When's the last time a 3 or 4 seed won a national championship? I mean,
well, they're usually 1 and 2s dominate. But the point being is that at least we have a system that weeds those teams out. And I even may not be rooting for them, but they are these teams that get in the 14 and 10 and the 12 seeds that get into the Sweet 16. They're a good story, but they're not going to win. Let's be honest. But the problem is we have these 5 power conferences that are in 35 different states. But you really think that the West Coast, I mean, anything that's past Oklahoma, you think they really care about this 14 playoff anymore? Of course they don't. And the ratings show it. They don't even care about this. This tournament, you might as well call this tournament the Southeastern Conference Championship Tournament because they dominate this thing. And I don't think it's good for college football to have the same teams in all the time and the same teams getting it's so unfair because they're on TV. They're top recruiting seasons. It's just a system that I think needs change. They need to go to an 18 playoff. And it's the only sport I can think of in high school all the way up to college, tiddlywinks, whatever, volleyball, that if you win your conference or division, you don't make the playoffs. And in college football, that happens because there's 5 power conferences and only 4 slots. Now, I'm saying they deserve a slot, but like I said, the Pac-12, you can say what you want about it, but we're talking about, I can name you a group of teams like USC, UCLA, powerhouse teams over the years have never even been in this playoff. I made a list the other day of 25 schools that you could say at one time or another were really good college football programs. They haven't even sniffed a spot in these 14 playoffs.
I don't want
broken. It's broken. It needs fixed.
Champ, I don't want an 18 playoff.
That's their own fault. Why are we giving rewards to teams that don't deserve to be a top 4 team? In a game like football where it's going to be the top 4 teams that come out.
What I would like to see is what Brian Driscoll has said, and that's use the bowl system and use the bowls to determine who's going to be the Final Four.
Guess what they're going to pick? They're going to pick Clemson, Ohio State, and it's going to be the same team all over again.
Not if someone steps up and beats Clemson. I mean,
exactly.
In 2014, Clemson was garbage.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, you want to be the best, go out and beat the best.
Clemson was like, you know what? I'm sick of not getting in the playoffs, and they went and they did something about it. That's what you have to do.
Why don't we take the NFL and just take the division winners and no other teams get in the playoffs? How about baseball? Forget about it. Let's just take the division winners in baseball because every other sport has expanded their playoffs, and it doesn't hurt the sport at all. It makes it more interesting. If you don't live in Ohio or part of the SEC, you don't really care about this tournament. Most of the country doesn't even watch this thing anymore.
What's that?
Remember when the SEC used to be a joke?
Oh, of course.
Before Alabama got really good?
Well, no, the SEC was a joke when the steel mills were still going on in the North because everyone lived in the North.
So, it's in cycles. I mean, the SEC.
Well, it's not in cycles. They've won 10 of the last 12 championships. They're dominating right now.
Well,
and I didn't mention, too, that Alabama, LSU, Florida, Auburn, and Georgia have all been to the playoffs. That's 5 schools from one conference. And what did I say the other ones were? I mean, it's just I don't know why these other conferences are even putting up with this.
That's a defeatist attitude. You just got to step up and get better.
That's it. Step up and get better.
Okay. Well, I don't know how, but there's 65 schools, and we're only going to have 4 teams in the playoffs. 4 out of 65. That's not enough to me. I think they need to expand this thing because it's and once again the committee controls all this. The NCAA has nothing to do with it.
You expand it, and the 9 and the 10 and the 11 seed are going to be griping about they deserve to be in the top 8, and we're going to be sitting here with the same conversation. Let's expand it to 16, and then we do that, and we're going to be like,
then all of a sudden,
but that 17 and 18 team deserves to get in.
And then all of a sudden, we're going to be going into the spring playing football, which is a fall sport. I mean, at some point,
it's only one more game. I'm only talking about one more game. 4 to 8 is one more game
right now. But once we have,
I'm not saying more than 8.
Once we have 8 for 10 years, it's going to be like, oh man, these teams that consistently get 9, 10, and 11, they deserve to get in too. Okay, let's make it 16. Okay, I mean, it starts to become a unending cycle.
I'm not saying that though. You're talking about something that's not going to happen.
You're not saying that now. You're not saying that now, but you'll say it.
I know, but if you're okay with this, that's fine. But you live in Ohio, okay? But
you do too.
Ohio State's one of these teams that I'm talking about, okay? That's fine. You live in Ohio, but what if you live in California or Arizona or Washington or Maine or what? You don't really care about this thing because it's totally unfair the way they have this thing. Unfair.
If Michigan would step up and beat Ohio State, then there wouldn't be a story. But Michigan consistently craps the bed against Ohio State.
Hey, by the way, did you see that Harbaugh's got extended at Michigan? To which all Ohio State fans are saying, so this is Christmas. Let the ass whippings begin.
Exactly. I mean,
I'm just like, are you kidding me with this? That's all right.
And you know what? USC used to be a powerhouse. They're not anymore.
Yeah.
But in Oregon.
Here's the scary part. If someone actually did their job out there and hired someone, I don't know, Urban Meyer's still without a job, and you did what I said they should have done last year and hired Urban Meyer to be the head football coach at USC, the Pac-12 would have all kinds of respect now. The Pac-12 craps on themselves because they crap on themselves.
It takes time, but if USC would have won the Pac-12 championship and then went and won their bowl game, next year they would have had a good starting spot. They could have taken care of business. They were bringing a lot of people back. And you could be talking about USC possibly fighting for a playoff spot. But what did they do? They lost to Oregon. They crapped the bed, and now everyone's like, well, you see, there was a reason we didn't respect USC. And they're going to be a step down next year.
And as a Notre Dame fan, keep crapping on yourself, USC, because I don't want any part of you guys being good. I've seen that story. I know how it ends.
You don't want to see another Bush push?
I don't want to see another Bush push. So as long as USC continues to be irrelevant, that's fine by me. I'm good with that. It's just get better. Oregon and Washington should have the pick of the litter in the northwestern part of the United States.
Like I said, before 2015, Clemson wasn't even in this discussion.
Of course not.
2014, they were garbage.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, but when you're in the championship game every year, it helps your recruiting. I think the television exposure it helps your recruiting, and it gives them an unfair advantage. Plus, the rules are set up to reward these teams that play tough schedules. And that's the bottom line. That's why there's never going to be a group of 5 in this tournament.
Well, look, I mean, at the end of the day, there's also some teams that have gotten into the playoffs by having a cream puff non-conference schedule, and those teams know who they are.
That's because they have a really, really tough conference they play.
Well, allegedly tough conference. I'm not talking about the SEC. The SEC is a tough conference.
Big 12
sure it is.
Has been at times, but it's not this year at
all. This year was a little step back.
It's been the most dominant conference for the last 15 years. It's not even close.
Not even close. This year they took a major step back. The Southeastern Conference.
Number one. They're still number one.
I get it. But the Southeastern Conference, like every other conference in college football this year, has not been a good conference. This has not been a good year for college football. And yet again, it would not surprise me, and I'll say it even though I don't think it's going to happen, it would not surprise me if Ohio State played Notre Dame for the national championship. I don't think it's going to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me because college football is nowhere close to being what college football has been like the last few years because of this god-awful pandemic.
And I will say, agree with you on the comment about difference of going to Ohio State or some of these other schools in Notre Dame. Whenever you read a recruit, a recently signed recruit, okay, they always mention why they chose Notre Dame, because of the education. You read the Ohio State thing, and they're talking about the NFL. Okay, the recruit say, yeah, I got a chance to go to the NFL, blah, blah, blah. The Notre Dame recruit always says, And it's always like my mother wanted me to go there because of the education. I know, and it's all about the education. It's not so much going there for football. It's about the education. And I think right now, and Notre Dame to me, 5 or 10 years ago, they were just across the board just getting beat up at every position. But I think they've fixed the offensive line. I think they've fixed the defensive line. But I think what they still lack is 5-star players in the skill positions. And I think it takes them longer to score because they have to grind it out more or less, as compared to teams like Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson that can score so quickly. But Notre Dame doesn't have those big-time receivers right now and running backs. Because they don't get the 5-star. They get a bunch of 4-star players, and I think that's what they're at right now. They need to get 5-star quarterbacks, 5-star receivers, and 5-star defensive backs.
5 stars don't do squat. All that stuff is a bunch of garbage.
Like Javon McKinley is one of the best receivers in the country, and he's not a 5-star athlete.
Well, he's not one of the best receivers in the country. Give me a break. I mean, he's decent, but where do you think he's going to get drafted? Do you think he's going to be drafted at all? I mean, he's a good receiver, but he's not the receivers that these Alabama and Ohio State and Clemson have. These guys can score so quickly, and Notre Dame just doesn't have those now. They had Claypool, which is a terrific player last year, but they still don't have 5-star players. And when I say 5-star, I mean the best players come out of college, whether you want to call them 4 or 5 stars.
Here, Champ, here's the other thing. Those receivers at Notre Dame don't have anyone with the stones to throw the ball down the field to hit them in pressure situations. So your receivers are made one way or the other by a quarterback. And if you want to sit back and start talking about how Notre Dame receivers struggle at Notre Dame, but all of a sudden when they get to the National Football League, they flourish. One of the reasons is because you didn't have a quarterback worth a hill of beans throwing you the ball at Notre Dame, and now you're in the pros, and now you're getting the flower as in complete bloom. Claypool is a great example of that.
Georgia
by the way,
is full of 5-star athletes. Look what they're doing.
Yeah, but Ian Book can beat almost everyone in the country except for they can't beat these 4 teams they're in right now. These are just better teams, and he's not a 5-star quarterback.
It doesn't matter about the star system. All it matters is Ian Book having the stones to throw the ball down the field. He does it against the non-power teams, but he won't do it against the teams. The first time they played Clemson, Ian Book went nuts because he threw the ball down the field and got some great success. He didn't do it the second time around. Those receivers were open the same window. He didn't do it the second time around because his ass cheeks got too tight. And it'll be the same way where you're going to be able to get a friggin' diamond ring from that kid because you're going to have a lump of coal stuffed up his backside and it'll turn into a diamond ring because he's going to be too tense. I mean, just throw the ball down the field. If you make a mistake, oh well. Nobody expects you to win anyway. Just throw the ball down the field if you see a guy open. Stop being I can't say the word, and just throw the ball down the field. Ugh.
Yeah, but if there's one characteristic, though, that when Notre Dame gets blown out by these great teams, it's they barely get 50 yards rushing in all these games. And they ran the ball in Clemson pretty well the first time, and that opens things up a lot. And that's what scares me because Alabama's pretty good against the run. They're not against the pass, but I agree that he has to take more chances. But his protection level was a lot different in that first Clemson game than it was in the second Clemson game.
I agree.
Because that's why the offensive line, which they always rated as a top offensive line, and usually they do well, but they never step up in these big games either, the offensive line.
And they're the other ones, and the defensive line as well. I mean, all of these guys, they don't step up when they need to, and that falls right on the head coach because guys come and go out of Notre Dame. The one constant that has remained for the last, 10-plus years, and then all the ass whippings that Notre Dame has had in the last 10-plus years, there's one constant in that, and that is one Brian Kelly. And if Brian Kelly coaches his butt off on Friday, maybe Notre Dame has a chance to beat Alabama.
Well, I think he can only do so much, but the players have to perform. That what happened to the defensive line? That defensive coach just got hired. That was a great coach they had, but they just were not there in the Clemson game, and that's why I think they'll play much better because that's the worst game I've seen that defense play in 2 years.
I hope you're right. I hope they show up because if they show up, they can play with Alabama.
Okay, well, I'm ready. Friday morning, I'm going to say about 10 Hail Marys and 4 Our Fathers, and if I have to make up a few prayers, I'll do that because they're going to have to play their best game to beat Alabama. But Alabama, defensively, they could be had. I mean,
right.
Their offensive numbers are great, but it's gonna. But the defensive line, they got to run the football and they got to stop the run, and they got to put pressure on this quarterback. But if they play like they played against Clemson, it's going to get ugly. And I may be watching reruns of Punky Brewster in the second half.
Well, yeah.
But other than that, I'm hoping that I think they'll play well, hopefully, but I'm not guaranteeing anything because I think this is not so much about Notre Dame, but more about how good Alabama is and maybe how good Clemson is and potentially how good Ohio State is. These are 3 great programs that are top 5. They got 5-star top players all over the place in recruiting every year. They're top 5. And Notre Dame is not there yet. They're in top 10 right now, but I think they got to get a little better 5-star players. This quarterback coming in from California, I'm very interested to see because he's highly touted, but we'll see. And that's what worries me about next year's team. They're loaded coming back, but they're going to have to get a new quarterback, and that scares me to death.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Champ, always a pleasure.
Okay, guys. Have a Happy New Year, you guys.
Happy New Year. 330-886-0813. I think the star rating is so damn overrated. It's ridiculous.
It's terrible. I mean,
all that is a bunch of people wanting to make a shitload of money off of people that are just saying, "Oh, your kid. Oh, I'm going to give your kid 4 or 5 stars. He's an unbelievable player." Really? Have you gone to the other 49 states? And how do you compare these high school kids? And how do you compare high school football in the state of Wyoming to high school football in the state of, say, Pennsylvania or
Texas,
Nevada to the state of Tennessee? Or Idaho to the state of Ohio. Really? Where are you going with this? It's not like you can take a kid out of a, quote, non-high school football factory and put him into a reputation-wise great football state and see what the kid can do. I mean, it's just the star system is so stupid and unreliable. It's just incredible.
That's why I hate when fan bases say we need more 5-star athletes. It's a lazy excuse to not put responsibility on player development.
Tom Brady wasn't a 5-star athlete.
Mac Jones is not a 5-star quarterback.
No. Hold on a second. There was a couple of other players that Jerry Rice didn't even go to a Division I school. He went to an FCS school.
Right.
Arguably the greatest wide receiver of all time was not in a Division I mid-major, let alone a Power 5 school. He was in a freaking FCS school. Walter Payton, the greatest running back not named Jim Brown, never went to a big-time college, let alone a mid-major. He went to an FCS school. Ben Roethlisberger will be in the Hall of Fame. Went to a mid-major Division I school. He wasn't a 5-star recruit. All that stuff is bullshit. It's absolute BS. It's garbage. What it is people wanting to steal money from people to pump up your kid.
Travis Kelce, best tight end in the NFL. He went to Cincinnati.
That's it. It drives me nuts when I hear oh, you're a 5-star athlete. Get out of here with that crap. Give me someone that knows how to play football, and you see it on film, and you see this person play the game on film. Just give me that kind of a play. I don't care if that person's a 5-star athlete, -2-star athlete. I don't give a crap about that stuff.
I'm a -2-star athlete.
I'm a -2-star athlete. I'm on down on the field and kicking butt.
I thought this was a baseball field.
I think that was a -4, but we've gone to bridge too far when you go to -4. It's just you're not going to be any good, kid. Do something else.
Oh, kid, you blew it.
Yeah.
I also don't like extending the playoffs. I think that's just a participation trophy in my opinion. Like, why are we rewarding the eighth team in the rankings for not really deserving anything this other than, oh man, you give a shot now to get blown out by Alabama. I mean, come on.
It's just use the bowl system and then do it that way.
It's not fair. Well, life's not fair.
No.
I mean, I get that it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's repetitive. Oh, okay, it's Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State. Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State. Some other fourth team. But that's not on the college football infrastructure. That's on other teams. Like I said, 2014, Clemson was garbage, and they won in 15.
Yeah.
And even before then, they took the steps to be a successful program. That's what you got to do.
Recruit better.
Recruit better, play better, develop your players better.
That's it.
USC, like I said, this year they weren't given a lot of respect, but they were undefeated in that Pac-12 championship game. If they beat Oregon and then go win their bowl game next year, they're in line to be in the conversation for the college football playoff. That's fair.
That's it.
That's what you got to do. I mean,
look, and I know it's a different animal because the NFL is a lot different from college football.
And I hated that comparison. But
the NFL doesn't. The NFL has different casts of characters depending on how well they draft, which is the same thing as recruiting, but essentially. But I mean, it's drafting is we are picking you. In terms of you have a choice to go here, 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 or here. It's a little bit different, but
I was about to jump to the phone when Champ compared the NFL playoffs to the college. I was like, there is so much more parity between 1 and 7 in the NFL compared to 1 and 8 in college football. If you had who's the 2 seed? If you had did Clemson get the 2?
Yeah, Clemson did get the 2.
If you had Clemson play the 7 seed, it would be a slaughterhouse game.
Yeah.
There's just no parity between 4 and even, you could argue most years 4 and 5, there's a big gap in college football.
Yeah.
There's a lot of parity between 5 and 10 and then 10 and everybody else. But between 4 and 5, most years there's a big gap. This year
was a little This year was a little weird. But this year, and no offense to Notre Dame, which I'm a big fan of, and no offense to Ohio State, there's a huge gap after Clemson and Notre Dame and Ohio State.
Right.
That's why Ohio State and Notre Dame are
big underdogs.
Big underdogs in their games. Now, hopefully, Ohio State kicks Clemson's ass and Notre Dame upsets Alabama, and that would be wonderful for the sport. Now, does it happen? Probably not. I'd love to see it, but probably doesn't happen. But in the pros, I mean, and it's different. I understand it's completely different, but you can rebuild and you can get a team to play championship caliber football, albeit it takes everyone to be on the same page.
It's a lot easier for a good team to get bad than it is in college football. You're not going to see an Alabama all of a sudden be bad one year. It's not going to happen dramatically like that. You could, like last year, you could see like a playoff team not make the playoffs the next year. Houston, for example.
Yeah.
They got into the AFC divisional round last year. They were a decent team. And then all of a sudden this year, they're garbage. That's never going to happen in college football. You're never, unless like a lot of people get hurt and it's like something unprecedented. I guarantee Alabama is not going to be a bad team in 1 year after they make the. They're gonna when they digress, which they will. Eventually, Alabama will, because it happens in cycles, just like USC, just like everyone else. Eventually, they're just going to have a couple of years where they're maybe 2 loss, and then maybe a year where they're 3 loss, and then all of a sudden they'll die down.
Well,
that's how it happens.
Yeah.
Teams don't all of a sudden. You're not all of a sudden bad in college football.
Remember that Alabama took a long time after Bear Bryant passed away, although they did have some success with coaches. But when Bear Bryant passed away, Alabama wasn't a great college football team until they hired Nick Saban. They just weren't. All right, Rich, you're on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. What's going on, Rich?
Gentlemen, good afternoon and Happy New Year to you both. Hopefully we have an upswing on the way society operates and this virus operates.
Yeah, no kidding.
How you feeling, Ron? How's things going?
Good. It's stronger and stronger every day, and things are coming along nicely.
All right. Did you have Anthony helping you pump that stuff or what?
No. Yeah, that's not happening.
Anyway, I've been a real proponent of the NFL for quite a while, and really a disgruntled Browns fan. This is the first year I've had where we got exciting to watch a football game, or at least anticipate a football game on a Sunday or a prime time.
Sure.
So I kind of lost track of what it takes to get into the playoffs right now, and from my surmise, it doesn't look like, even if we win, we may not get in.
No, you win,
Is that
you're
a possibility?
No, you get in if you win. If the Browns win, they're in the playoffs.
Okay. Well, I understand that the Steelers are benching a bunch of their guys. That doesn't make them bad, though.
Well, and the other thing that if you're a Browns fan, you have to be worried about this. COVID is starting to rear its ugly head toward the Browns organization. They've put a couple of guys on the COVID reserve list. They had a breakout this morning where a member of the team and a member of the front office both got COVID, so they had to close the facilities down, and it's not good. It's hopefully things are going to start turning out in the right way for Cleveland.
I hate saying it, it's such a Brown thing to happen.
Oh my God, absolutely.
You're right there at the finish line, and then something completely out of your control, like a COVID breakout.
Yeah.
That would be the luck of the Browns.
Rich, I got a theory on this. What the Browns go to the Super Bowl and they're like 1 minute away from winning this thing. It's much like the Indians. This is a Cleveland thing. The Indians are 1 out away from the World Series, or the Browns are 1 minute away and it's a blowout and everyone knows that they're going to win the game. Jesus Christ decides to come back. That's a Cleveland thing.
Yep, we're done.
We're done.
World's over. Oh, come on.
Yeah, that's it. You couldn't wait another inning or so?
Jesus, just hold the phone real quick. I need to finish this.
Well, I would hope that he would show up on the Browns bench and not the opponents.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that's the only chance there. Anyway, I've trashed Facebook. I'm just tired of the whole schematic, getting censored and getting da-da-da. So that's out there. I still have Messenger and text. You know that. Things are going to change here. I'm going for the patch here after the first of the year to quit smoking.
Wow, look at you! All right.
Yep. And that day you drop your cells off, you saw my hair the longest it's ever been. That's going here. That's going out here next week.
Yeah, you gotta cut your hair, young man.
Oh man. It looks pretty good, slick back in the tail, though. I got to tell you.
Rich, give us a honest customer's review of Ron Podesta Pizzelles and the customer service survey.
Oh man, excellent.
Was the customer service good? Was the door delivery system good too?
What is this customer service good?
I just want to make sure that we're.
I had a smile on my face.
All right,
I didn't say anything derogatory. I mean, I'm
just want to make sure that we're making everybody happy with the Pizzelles business.
I've heard nothing but good things about the Pizzelles. Now, the customer service thing, I don't know about. Depends
home delivery with a smile and a grin doesn't get better than
that.
Was
he on time?
Oh, enough with you. Good Lord.
Anthony, behave yourself. Anyway, hey, are you going to plan on making any more of those here after maybe the holiday, or you get some time on your hands?
That's the tradition in Casa de Potesta is Easter and Christmas. Those are the two times that we do it.
I was raised Catholic and Orthodox. Orthodox Christmas is a week later.
So
that
all right.
Basically, what Ron is asking you is how much are more Pizzelles worth?
No.
Everybody has a number, Rich.
Yeah, this is true. Yeah, this is true.
Grandma used to make them, and it was great because my dad's side of the family was Catholic, and my mom's side was Orthodox. So we'd have two Christmases. And that poor lady was making pizzelles by the thousands.
There you go.
If Notre Dame wins on Friday, Ron might make a batch of pizzelles.
I'm going to be too busy, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not even going to be able to see the game on Friday. How about that one? And that actually might help that I don't see Notre Dame, because if Notre Dame, let me throw this out, and Anthony and Rich, you're gonna answer this as well.
All right.
I'm not watching the game because Rob Schmidt is doing the game. I help out Rob Schmidt on the broadcast at Beagley. So YSU men are playing at 4 o'clock. Notre Dame's playing Alabama at 4 o'clock. I'm not going to be watching the game. Now, when the game is over, depending on how good Notre Dame is looking, I may or may not decide to watch the end of the game. Doesn't mean I'm not going to DVR it. I am going to DVR the game.
I just DVR.
Yeah, I'm DVRing the game.
Stay off social media.
Here's the question. If Notre Dame upsets Alabama on Friday and I did not watch any of the game live, does this mean that I can't watch the national championship game?
Absolutely not. You are more than welcome. That's my vote.
That idea.
Well, I mean, it's that whole jinx bullcrap that everyone talks about, where you have to if your team wins and you didn't watch the game, well, you can't watch the next game. Or if someone's throwing a no-hitter, you can't say that person's got a no-hitter.
Never do that.
Baloney.
No. That's a golden broadcast.
That's garbage.
But as far as as long as you're not calling the Notre Dame game, I think they should be fine.
Well, I'm pretty safe in that one. We're not going to be calling the Notre Dame game anytime soon. I think I disqualified myself.
One of my favorite athletes of all time, Omar Vizquel.
Yes.
War number
He's
13.
in trouble.
Yeah.
He's in trouble.
Boy, he is in trouble. Yeah.
He's in trouble.
Omar wore number 13.
Yes, he did.
He shunned jinx. There's no such thing. If you believe in Jesus, all this means nothing. That's my man.
Yeah.
That's my man. Okay, and on another note, Notre Dame's probably the underdog here, and I'm betting Ohio State is the underdog.
Yes, they're both sizable underdogs. Notre Dame is a 20-point underdog.
They're like
Ohio State. Last I saw was 7.5.
They're like the 6
That's
feet.
all?
They're like the 6 feet underdog.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's only 7.5.
Yeah, only 7.5. The last I saw, and it's still 7.5.
I'm not buying it. You know, if I was a betting man, my days are over. I had the crap scared out of me by Uncle Canoose several decades ago because I owed some money and paid it off on one bet, and I haven't laid a penny down on anything since.
There you go.
Wisdom comes in knowing what not to do.
Exactly.
Anyway, if I was a betting man, I'd have to put a load on Clemson, and I'm a Buckeyes fan big time, but that's just the way it is.
Well, Ohio State is winless in their career against Clemson, and that's something that I think that the wise guys have figured out.
Dabo Sweeney has made that abundantly clear.
Oh, you think? Yeah, you think he's made a couple of things abundantly clear? Good Lord.
Well, you know, he should. He should. You know, he's done some great things since taking over that program.
Yeah.
Now he's acting like an arrogant.
Well, that's okay. That's okay. You know what?
Okay.
That swagger carries on.
Why give your opponent locker room material to make
I
them
watched,
even more mad? Why poke an angry bear?
Yeah.
I watched Urban do it for years. I mean, Nick Saban same way. When you're really good, you're really good, and that's all there is to it.
And very rarely do they get slapped, but boy, it feels good when they get slapped. It does.
On a note for all pro sports, that would be. I'm not a basketball fan, so I really can't comment on that. But the other three majors, it's been a very diluted year and very disappointing.
Yeah.
And the World Series was okay. It was a World Series. We played part of the season. Guys didn't play this year. They opted out, and the same thing with football. It's guys are COVID. Guys are taking COVID to other places to destroy their team. It's I got to tell you, it's all been a yonder. But you know what? It's something to do, something to watch other than normal crappy TV. And so on that note, I'm going to watch this stuff. Are either the Notre Dame game or Ohio State game on national TV? Is my next question.
Yeah, they're both on ESPN.
Yeah, they're both on the 4-letter network, which that isn't national TV. It's cable.
Are they on ABC on ESPN?
Actually, that's the million-dollar question. I hope they're on ABC.
Me too.
Because they wouldn't put. I don't think they'd put something like that on regular, but they could. But I feel like they might be on ABC.
I was shocked to see a Monday Night Football game on ABC. I almost fell over.
What they usually do is they'll put like the game on ABC, and then on ESPN they'll have the other angle, and then like on ESPN2 they'll have like their analysts watch the game and react to it, and then on ESPNU they'll have like the production view from the production truck. Like they utilize all their channels for that game.
On a note of football
Which
productions,
I think is really cool.
Broadcasting of football productions, after watching Sunday night NFL on NBC, and then you go to Monday night on ESPN, it's like going to kindergarten again.
Yeah, no, that's NBC.
What a dip. The announcers are bottom shelf. The camera work is bottom shelf. Oh my God!
Yeah.
NBC got it nailed down, brother.
It used to be the gem of sports.
No, Monday Night Football used to be the crown jewel.
Now it's a joke.
Yep, absolutely.
I love Steve Levy as a newscaster and as a Sports Center anchor, but as a play-by-play, no, just stop.
Yeah,
he's not good.
Yeah, that's
He's
tough.
Not good. He's a really good caster.
Oh my gosh, he is. He's a great
and his
sportscaster.
dad is a really great sportscaster.
Yeah.
but he's just the play-by-play.
Yeah, it's not good.
It's not good.
The camera worker reminds me of someone doing a live podcast from their cell phone versus NBC. Oh
Yeah,
my God!
And you, I mean, Rich, you grew up in the era of Monday Night Football in its heyday with Gifford, Cosell, and Meredith, and I mean, it was state of the art. It was Monday night was a treat. That was the best of the best of the best. Monday Night Football now is a joke.
I hope it gets back to where it not. And ESPN, it's really easy for them to get it back, but I hope it comes back to where now Sunday Night Football is usually the premier game.
Oh, absolutely.
They need to put the premier game on Monday night and try to bring it back because I think that'll be good for football.
It would be nice.
Well, ESPN got to shore up to back it up, though. That camera work's got to go, and you need more guys than the water boys to do the announcing.
You claim to be the worldwide leader in sports, and you better have the best sports broadcast.
Yeah, well, that's
right
now
they're not even close.
Yeah, the problem. Go ahead.
Let's not forget Madden and Pat Summerall. That was an awesome team too.
Yeah, no doubt.
And when Al Michaels was on ABC, I mean that was fun too.
It was phenomenal.
And then Hank Williams Jr. I mean, you can't be they can't beat that intro. I mean, if that doesn't get your blood pumping for a football game, and then the helmets crashing with the explosion. I mean,
yeah, pretty good. Pretty solid.
So good.
Are they still using that, or did he?
No,
did he pull that out?
No, they don't have that intro. They have Hank Williams back, but it's not the same Monday Night Football intro.
All right, Rich.
Well, guys, I got to go take care of business. Nothing fancy on the menu. Tomorrow's another day.
All right, brother.
But I thought I'd give you guys a tip of the hat and have a healthy, happy New Year.
All right, brother. Always a pleasure.
All right.
See you. 330-886-0813. I'm going to take a time out because we need to run some commercials. We'll be back in a bit. It's a Wednesday
the lights
edition.
Are flickering. We better pay some bills.
Running Points, courtesy of Greenwood Chevrolet, Moaning Avenue in Austintown. Back in a bit.
In storm season.
I think we're under the gun for some heavy storms over the next couple of hours.
And Storm Tracker 21 is ready.
This is probably the one we're keeping a closer eye on.
On air.
And locally, we're going to have a lot of eyes on our area.
Online.
All right, let's talk high-risk futurecast and the timing of this weather.
On social media and on our app.
Rain will come and go tomorrow. There'll be some dry intervals.
Stay ready with Storm Tracker 21.
The severe weather threat now through around sunset this evening.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa. And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing. Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships. We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team. Your goals, our game plan. Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Hi everyone, this is DJ Yoakley with Your Sports Network. We appreciate your support of YSN and welcome you to the YSN family. Our broadcast streams are brought to you live at no cost to you by sponsors that are local to this community. Without the vision and generosity of our sponsors and partners, we would not be able to bring this game to you today. So please support the great businesses and leaders that are making this game possible. And if you're a business in need of great advertising and sponsorship opportunities, feel free to head over to our site for more information on the right fit for you. We are local, we are loyal, and we are live. We are YSN.
Ah, the details. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is one fine ride. Perfect cornering, superb handling, sporty and stylish, power to spare, plus awesome mileage. Yeah, jaw-droppingly beautiful lines and well appointed with luxurious trim. Put more oomph in your life and start beholding the molding. Find your home's fine hardwood at BairdBrothers.com.
No matter what the weather, be prepared with a reliable, efficient Rude gas furnace or air conditioner from MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. Call your energy-efficient expert, MP Vivo, today for a free estimate.
Here at MP Vivo, we rely on Rude, and so should you.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions, reminding you that it is open enrollment for Medicare.
Now through December 7th, those who qualify can visit our local independent agency by calling us at 330-953-3722 or visiting us at wrsinsurancesolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
Attention all football fans. If you can't see your team play, come and dine with us and watch it live at Boardman, Canfield, or Cortland. Or staying at home, we'll deliver right to your door. That's Coca's Pizza. We serve it hot.
2020 will be a season like we've never seen before, but 21 Sports and YSN will be there for every key moment. The plays, the players, and the stories that will headline this season. Delivered by 21 Sports and YSN.
Planning a project around your home or rental property? Trust the electrical service to the local experts with 62 years of serving the Mahoning Valley. Joe Dickey Electric is your local go-to source for responsive, reliable residential electrical work. From everyday maintenance and repairs to new installations, electrical upgrades, and safety inspections, no job is too big or too small. Call Joe Dickey Electric today, 800-549-3976, or visit DickeyElectric.com. That's DickeyElectric.com.
Myers Family Insurance knows the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is here, so it's all hands on deck to make sure your plans still meet your needs for 2020.
Call us today.
You may find yourself in some difficulty this winter. Don't get whacked by high heating bills. Call Michael at MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. Michael is a trusted friend who will be able to help you with many things, like getting a 95% high-efficiency furnace this winter from Rude. Michael relies on Rude, so should you. Call MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning for a free estimate, 330-259-0486, and take care of your heating and air situation.
I went to Greenwood Chevrolet because I was really interested in looking at the tracks.
Because I wanted my dream truck.
Because I've been going there for 20 years.
I'm really happy that I went
To Greenwood Chevrolet. Because they really went the extra mile for me.
Now we're going the extra mile for you, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Welcome back to a Wednesday edition of Running Points, courtesy of Greenwood Chevrolet on Mahoning Avenue in Austintown. The MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline open for business, 330-886-0813. News breaking a couple of minutes ago. Clemson offensive coordinator Tony Elliott, he is not going to be available for the Sugar Bowl against Ohio State. He is tested positive. Actually, he is due to COVID-19 protocol, so we don't know if he's tested positive or if it could be contact tracing. So that's what's going on.
But, by now, most of his game planning and pregame prep is probably already done. So at least for the fact that that's not going to hurt Clemson in the sense of putting together an offensive scheme and putting together a game plan, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't know if he calls the plays or if Dabo calls the play. I don't know. I don't really know.
If he calls the plays, that's going to hurt.
Right.
In a big, big way.
The other good news is, Trevor Lawrence is one of the really, elite quarterbacks, so he's going to be able to step up a little bit, probably make some pre-snap reads and get the team where they need to go.
We'll find out. Let's go to Ron.
I know you're hoping that.
Ron, it's been a while. Hey, you're on the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning Hotline. What's up, brother?
Happy New Year's to you, and what's his name?
Anthony.
Happy
Yeah.
New Year's to
Happy
you
New Year. How was your Christmas?
Pretty good, man. Pretty
Good.
Hey,
Good
so
to hear.
COVID got us down, but I have something to tell you. I heard you 3 weeks ago. I'm in and out listening, and I heard you say your condition now. And then today you all was talking about how you jinx. I'm gonna tell you what I did. 6606. Okay, I walked into St. E's Hospital. People looked at me. It was empty, man. What happened was my kid was graduating. They even moved the date back to 05. And I knew I had to go into the hospital. So I wanted to see him graduate. I walked in there, 6606. Everybody was looking. It was empty, man, because some people didn't want to do that. I stayed in there for 15 days, man.
Oof.
This was 14 years ago, man.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just saying, and what you were saying, when you see something in this, I had that going on, and I just brushed it off like all guys do. You want to be Tarzan and Superman.
Oh no! My father, and thank God he's still alive. He has since looked at me and said, "Have you learned your lesson?" Every time this gets brought up, he looks at me and he says, "Have you learned your lesson?" And I will just tell you, spare yourself a lot of pain, a lot of heartache, and a lot of stuff that you do not want your worst enemy to go through. If you see something that is weird on your body, aka marking or some sort, go to the doctor as fast as possible. Don't prolong this. Don't sit back and go, no big deal. Don't be a macho man. Go to the doctor. Even if you don't like doctors, go to the doctor, because if you don't, you're going to have to go through all kinds of stuff you don't want to go through.
I want you to be positive, stay positive. I see at least 3 or 4 times a year I get blood drawn and everything. I can relate. I used to be in a shell after that because I didn't even want to talk about it. I wouldn't even be doing that now, but as much as I like you, when I heard you, I had to tell you this, man, and this is a fact. That was how many years ago, man?
14,
I
yeah.
Still see him. I still
Oh,
see
no,
him.
listen, I'm going to be seeing a dermatologist twice a year. I'm going to be seeing the doctor that performed the surgery twice a year. I'm going to be seeing my doctor twice a year, and that's now going to be part of what I'm going to go through for the rest of my life, and I got no problems with that.
Okay, now say 2 things, and I'm going to get to my sports question. And 2 of my doctors have since died. Okay, I was getting treated by 3. 2 of them have since died. One died of cancer, the other committed suicide. Okay, look here. You all was talking. You all been talking about a lot of stuff. Interesting thing, good stuff. But it's especially with the colleges and stuff. Because I remember you all was speaking about as far as the college guys who goes to the pros, and you all were talking. The discussion was about quarterbacks and stuff. Now there was a coach. I don't know exactly who it was. He had said he was there to win games, not to develop NFL players. And I can kind of relate to that, And like earlier, you were saying, like, okay, Nick Saban, he's a good coach, but he also recruits good. Why is like you have Nick Saban there, Sweeney there? These guys are always at the top. Why is this, man?
They recruit well. And when you win championships, your program is developed. So now all of a sudden, everyone knows, hey, if I want to go and win a championship, we're going to go to Alabama, or we're going to go to Clemson, or we're going to go to Ohio State. And, it's going to take a coach that is going to have to do something truly out of the unordinary to get onto that stage, like Clemson did in 2015.
Right. And see, that's the thing that kind of, well, it excites all of us, just watching football. But when we see Alabama up there, I mean, well, we in Ohio, But I'm also a Clemson. My mother and all of them, they all from South Carolina, So that game will be interesting. I want the Buckeyes to win. You know that.
Well, I'm rooting for the Buckeyes too, which should surprise a lot of people. But that's how much how little I think of Dabo Swinney. I respect his coaching, but Dabo Swinney's turned into the biggest a-hole in college football over the last 4 years because of his demeanor. I mean, the shucks golly attitude's been replaced with some clown that deserves to get his teeth kicked in.
Okay, now you all were talking about as far as Notre Dame, they have a good shot now. Okay, they have a good shot.
I mean, if they show up and decide to play and not get scared.
Yeah, well, they got a good shot there. Okay, another thing before we go, did you find that rotary phone?
No, I had no luck whatsoever. Damn it, I'm going to find one before, and I hope to find it soon. But I'm going to find one as soon as possible and give it to my dad just to see the look on his face.
Well, see, those was back in my days. I don't have one now, but I will keep my eyes open. But see, you want one that really works, okay? You
Oh God, yeah.
Any old one.
Well, and it's not just to put the smile on my dad's face, because I got nephews and nieces that would look at this thing and they would have to wonder, how the hell do you use it? That would be the one thing that I would love to see as well.
Oh, that's priceless. Putting the smile on your dad's face.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right, let's go to Cleveland and Pittsburgh now. They're not going to play the quarterback, which I kind of agree with them. But like I was talking to my Steelers fans today, I said, the Browns going to be hungry, and they was wishing that they would put him in there. I say, well, I'm going to be honest with you. I wouldn't put him in there either, because the Browns going to be hungry, and they're going to be going in there trying to kick some butt. You all have have more to gain than to lose. Is what I'm saying.
Well, look, I mean, the manufactured bye week of the Steelers was October the 4th, 3 weeks into the season. They had played 3 games. Then they had the manufactured bye week because Tennessee had the COVID issues. And they've had to play 12 games. So I can understand why 12 games, consecutive games. All right, yeah, let's shut Ben down and get him fresh for the playoffs. Doesn't matter if we're the 3 seed or the 2 seed. It doesn't matter. If I'm a Browns fan right now, the biggest thing that I am concerned with is what you should have been concerned with last week. And you didn't lose to the Jets, COVID, and the Jets, but COVID more than anything else got you beat. And COVID is continuing to rear its ugly head in Cleveland, and that is a very scary proposition over there.
True, and also Baker does not play defense, okay? Baker does not play defense. I can repeat that 100 times. That's what was a big factor in them losing.
I don't know. He gives the ball to the other team a lot, so he might be playing defense.
Wait. Hey, that happens, but he doesn't play defense. Did you see how they actually ran the ball?
Yeah.
They were connecting?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so he had three. I mean, all right, I'm going to give him that pass. But
they got to play defense. I mean, and it doesn't matter if Roethlisberger's quarterbacking, if Mason's quarterbacking, if a Duck is quarterbacking, if the reincarnation of Terry Hanratty is quarterbacking. It doesn't matter. The Browns have to play defense, and
what
if
is
they
the
don't,
Duck's name? What is the Duck's name?
Hodges.
They was asking me that today. We were talking about
Hodges.
that. Hodges. Okay, there you go. See, I hang around with Pittsburgh Steelers fans. We good friends.
The Duck.
Hey, hey, look here, man. Stay safe. Happy New Year's. Love you like a brother. You know that.
I love you too, brother. Always a pleasure, man. See you.
Take care.
All right, we're going to take a final timeout and put a wrap on this thing because we're going to have a show tomorrow. Anthony and I have decided to do a show tomorrow.
Mason Rudolph's going to take off his helmet and put it in midfield.
Wow. Really? Wow. Actually, you know what? On that note, I don't even want to take the commercials. We're just going to get out of here. That's a mic drop moment, and there you go. So Power Hours coming up next, DJ and the fellas. We will talk tomorrow.
Hey, it's Trivia Wednesday on the Power Hour.
Yeah, there you go. Tomorrow on Running Point, you and I are going to have New Year's resolutions for our sports teams.
Year in review.
It's going to be all kinds of fun.
We might even pop some confetti. Who knows?
Well, you get the confetti, and that'll be nice. I might have some horn. What are those things the horn stuff?
The kazoo?
Yeah, not the kazoo. The stuff that they blow on.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah,
not the breathalyzer.
Yeah, well, not the breathalyzer. That's about an hour after New Year's. Let's be honest. All right, well, we're out of here. Have a great rest of the day. Crestview in East Liverpool, down in East Liverpool on the river. Larry Scragg and I will have girls basketball from the river, not literally. East Liverpool High School, Potter Field House. That should be fun.